crazy enough to work.
Yeah.
do you know what we're here for?
Don't be creepy.
Thanks, Jeff, for the question.
Right now. Your name, please?
Not gonna do it. Wouldn't be prudent at this juncture.
I don't want reality.
I see that you know your judo well.
It's science.
Consequences.
So hot right now. Come on! Phrasing.
In the Ice Age, how much taxes did people pay?
Well, here we all are again. Beautiful Sunday night as we stare off into the stars, wondering what it is that the future holds for us. Well, a lot to look at in order to even start to try and figure that one out. So I suppose we better get right to it. Buckle up those seatbelts, space fans. It's a long trip through the unknown. Wow, Robot Monkey Cat just stole first. Alright. Well, we got lots of stuff to look through here. I'm going to start, as usual, in the United States. Where people are continuing to prove that we need to, This first story is from Kentucky, where 4 were killed in a shooting inside of a Kentucky home. Afterwards, the suspect died during a vehicle chase, according to police.
Officers were dispatched to an address on Ridgecrest Drive in Florence. Report of shots fired around 2:50 a.m. in the morning.
Whoa, what is happening?
When officers arrived, they still heard shots being fired, and they approached the residence. When they got to the residence, they saw multiple victims, and once they got into the residence, the partygoers told them that the suspect had fled. A pursuit ensued and went south on 42 into Union and onto Hicks Pike. While driving down Hicks Pike, it's believed that the suspect shooter had shot himself with the gun that he had and then crashed his vehicle.
Jesus Christ.
The shooter was transported to St. Elizabeth, Florence, and where he succumbed to his injuries and was pronounced dead at St. Florence. At the scene as well, there was 4 that were pronounced deceased at the scene. And I have their names. The 4 victims are Shane Miller, 20 years old, of Florence, Hayden Ribicki, 20 years old, of Ellesmere, and Delaney Erie, 19 years old, of Burlington, and Melissa Parrott, 44 years old, of Florence.
Sorry to start off Sunday Funday with some news that is clearly the antithesis of that. My bad. Didn't have anything good to start it off with, not gonna lie.
Rid of the Second Amendment.
Okay, now let's go to Philadelphia. This one is, I mean, hard to quantify where these things lie on the senselessness charts. They all seem to top out pretty high up there. This one, I thought I misread the title when I first saw the title of this video. I was like, what? Perhaps you'll also feel confused after I read this title for you. 6 ABC Philadelphia from 2 days ago. Teen shot while visiting memorial for shooting victim in Summerdale. That's right, a teenager was shot while visiting the memorial of a different shooting victim.
Happening right now, investigators looking for 3 people, this in connection with a shooting that left an 18-year-old injured. That teen was shot while visiting a memorial that was set up for another gunshot victim in the city's Summerdale neighborhood. Police responding to the 900 block of Beryl Street just before 1:30 this morning. Investigators say that victim was rushed to the hospital with a gunshot injury to the leg. The individual is expected to be okay. 3 suspects were spotted running from the scene. At this point, no word on what led up to that shooting.
This is an incredibly senseless act. It just really gets me. Really gets me. This is just wild. Why do we have to look at these things? And the fact is, I cut these down. I had like 8 different stories that have accumulated over the last 24 hours or so. And I cut it down to 3. Because we can't spend an hour every day looking at these stories. You live in Summerdale? My God. Well, stay safe, please. Jesus Christ. Here's another very senseless story. From New York, in the Bronx. Eyewitness News ABC. 2 children targeted in shooting inside of a McDonald's in the Bronx.
Two children recovering this morning after they were shot in the Bronx. They were in a McDonald's in the Allerton section when someone opened fire on them. Children, 12 and 13. Eyewitness News reporter Crystal Cranmore is live there with the latest. Crystal.
Well, Tony, we're learning new information from police that they believe that the suspect said something to the boys before firing at them, leading police to believe that these boys were targeted. The shooting taking place at this McDonald's behind me, where the crime scene unit remains at this hour. The shooting took place at the 2500 block of White Plains Road here in Allerton, where police say shots went flying a little before 10 o'clock last night. Police say the 12-year-old boy was shot in the left thigh and back. The 13-year-old boy was also shot in the leg. Both were taken.
2 kids young enough that I would wager they're probably not in high school. Those are 2 middle school children being shot. Just disgusting. I guess maybe the 13-year-old could be in 9th grade. I guess it depends on when their parents started them. Can you have 2 emotional support characters? Yes. Yes, you can. It's an 11. What's that? 13? 11 and a 13. Okay, let's end this discussion about gun violence with this from King 5 Seattle. Traffic jam for peace. Rally hits Seattle streets protesting gun violence.
A mobile peace rally hit the streets of Seattle today to protest gun violence, and they did it by slowing down traffic, calling for 100 days of peace. That caravan trekked slowly from South Seattle, ending in Soto. Photojournalist Andy Nitchman was there.
The red balloon signals stop. It means for us to stop and for us to be in unity together.
Father God, we thank you for bringing us together in this way. We pray for unity and peace.
Today we are having what we are calling a traffic jam for peace.
All right, y'all, let's get it.
This is a rally to launch our 100 Days of Peace that is happening throughout the rest of this year. The traffic jam for peace is metaphorically a way to show how what affects one of us directly affects all of us indirectly. And so we're using this traffic jam as a way to get people's attention. There have been numerous shootings that have impacted people's homes, where they were sitting at home or their children were lying in their bed. Bullets don't have names. Our gun violence issue is not color-coded. It's not segregated. Bullets can go wherever they want.
Traffic jam for peace.
My mind says, it's not on my street, not at my house, I'm okay.
We have to do a better job of working together.
But we're not okay.
That's the mindset that I feel like we... Oh yes, sorry. We have to deal with our support characters first, 11 and 13. It's a Gary and a Jocelyn Bell Burnell. Combination of religion and science. As Gary seems to be somewhat of a religious character these days. got his own religion. Okay, our overall gun violence stats are down. I mean, it's true. From 2021, we are down, but we are still number 2 in terms of gun violence in the world. And that's no good. Which is why I'm always complaining about the gun culture, which we continue to glorify and do nothing about. No, less guns, more hugs. Who's number 1? Brazil. I wonder where they get all those guns from. I'll give you one guess. I'll give you one guess where Brazil gets all their guns from. Starts with an M. America. But yeah, we're not number 1 in that one statistic somehow. All right, let's talk about the presidential race here a little bit. Starting it off with this from CNN. And this is disturbing. And it's in what it sort of says to us, I think, in terms of Joe Biden's capabilities, and especially as it relates to what they've been touted as up to this point. Yeah. Radio host who interviewed Biden confirms that his aides sent questions ahead of time for approval.
Before the president sat down with George Stephanopoulos, he spoke with 2 black radio hosts in the battleground states of Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. Both are with me now. Earl Ingram is the host of the Earl Ingram Show in Milwaukee, and Andrea Lawful Sanders is the host of The Source on WURD in Philadelphia. Welcome to you both. Congratulations on such a big week. And Earl, let me start with you. And I'm going to play here the president's answer to your question about his performance in the debate. Here's what he told you.
I had a bad night. And the fact of the matter is that, I screwed up. I made a mistake. And but I learned from my father, when you get knocked down, just get back up. Get back up.
Did you hear?
Now, before we get too far into this, I want everybody to try to remember as we listen to all this that we've been getting told that Biden just needs to get out there more, needs more sort of revealing interactions with the public, one-on-one questions, and that's where he's going to shine, right?
The version of the president, similar to one we saw the debate, that alarmed so many Democrats. Gauge for me what your exchange was with the president.
Well, you're talking about a person, myself, who has followed the president for over 45 years. I've watched him from a very when I was a very young man to where he is now. Clearly, not just the president, but any person over a 45-year period there's going to be some changes to who they were, as there is with me. I'm not surprised that Joe Biden is not who he was 45 years ago. I am a little surprised that the Joe Biden of today is different from the Joe Biden of 2 years ago, of even a year ago.
How so?
Well, clearly, cognitively, anybody who hears him and knows of him and who he has been will detect that there are some differences in his speech. People attribute that constantly to the fact that he has a speech impediment. He's always had a speech impediment his entire life, but people hadn't been talking about the fact that he has a speech impediment until, you know, the last few weeks. And clearly there's something that is different about President Joe Biden.
Yeah, he says that he hasn't.
Wow, a lot of discussion of gun ownership and whether or not people have shot guns in chat before. At one time in my life, I lived in the country. Growing up as a child, I've shot all the guns, honestly, from, you know, like, really, I could go, it's quite a long list. But while there may be some amount of fun that some people derive from all that, the inherent safety risks that come along with these things, I don't think is a fair bargain. That's just me.
Will not be taking or releasing a cognitive test. Andrea, let me ask you here about your interviews and something. I listened to both of them, and there's something that's similar here. You each were, you asked 4 questions, and maybe that's what you were allowed to ask by the campaign or the White House, but they were essentially the same questions, both interviews, about accomplishments, progress in your respective state, what's at stake in the election, what he has to say about his debate performance, and what he would say to voters who think their vote doesn't matter or might sit this election out. Were those questions given to you by the White House, or did you have, or the campaign, or did you have to submit questions ahead of this interview?
The questions were sent to me for approval. I approved them.
Okay, so the White House sent the questions to you ahead of the interview?
Yes.
Okay.
I got several questions, 8 of them, and the 4 that were chosen were the ones that I approved.
Okay.
She got sent an entire list of questions, pre-approved for her to ask the president. She sorted through them and picked out of them for the interview. That is the least sort of, what do you call it? Like candid, like sort of genuine conversations that we're being told that we need to be expecting, and that would be the good stuff. But this is, you know, this is the opposite of that. It's the fucking opposite of that. It's very frustrating to me. We're going to skip watching the ABC Stephanopoulos interview today. I was considering watching it a while, but no. It was a train wreck. And my guess is that Stephanopoulos probably got handed a list of questions as well. I mean, that would be my guess. Yeah, let's go to this. Channel 4 news. Biden says only the Lord Almighty can tell him to drop out of the presidential race.
Jesus ain't say that.
President Joe Biden, his first television interview since the debate.
It's said that the 81-year-old president has good days and bad days. After the worst of days, that debate, this interview was a time when Joe Biden needed to be at his best, as he was asked what went so wrong last week.
Was this a bad episode or the sign of a more serious condition?
It was a bad episode. No indication of any serious condition. I was exhausted. I didn't listen to my instincts in terms of preparing, and I had a bad night.
This unedited 22-minute sit-down was an attempt to mop up the mess of the 90-minute sparring with Donald Trump that raised so many concerns about Biden's age.
Look, if we finally beat Medicare,
and whether he was still fit for office now,
even worse
as well as for another 4 years.
Would you be willing to undergo an independent medical evaluation that included neurological and cognitive tests and release the results to the American people?
look, I have a cognitive test every single day. Every day I have that test. Everything I do. You know, not only am I campaigning, but I'm...
You're asking us to judge you on everything you're doing? I wouldn't go. That's a bad bet. It's a bad bet to make.
In the world. And that's not how it sounds like hyperbole. But
A
we
little
are
bit.
the essential nation in the world.
But it's that point that so worries Democrats.
It also sounds
that the
completely
stakes are
fucked.
so high because of who could next be in charge. Donald Trump, a convicted felon who's been emboldened by the Supreme Court decision that a president's official acts are immune from prosecution. It is Biden himself who has warned of the threat of an imperial Trump second term.
Around the world.
But amidst concern that he's now down in the polls against Trump, Biden remains resolute.
Do you really believe you're not behind right now?
I think it's all the pollsters I talk to tell me it's a toss-up.
All the people in his campaign are telling him he's still got this. That's what's happening right now.
If you can be convinced that you cannot defeat Donald Trump, will you stand down?
Well, it depends if the Lord Almighty comes down and tells me that, I might do that.
If God doesn't stop off in the Oval Office, could more gaffes cause Biden to think again? At a rally in Wisconsin yesterday, he made a slip about what year it was.
I'll beat Donald Trump. I will beat him again in 2020.
A minor
Oh my
mistake,
God.
but the more frequent, the more major they become. 5 Democrats in the House are calling for him to step aside. Major donors are threatening to withhold funds, and a Washington Post report suggests that one senator is trying to get a group together to stage an intervention.
Yeah, there is in fact a group of people attempting to stage an intervention. Last time I heard, that group was approaching 30. CNN equals Communist News Network. Good one. If only. What was I doing? Ah, yeah. I was complaining about how we are now essentially, by way of what Joe Biden just said, now we have to count on God. Okay, did I ever think I was gonna come to this point during a stream, but now we all have to ask God to tell Joe Biden to step down. I don't like that position at all. I'm really hoping that something more sensible brises itself, you know, just because that doesn't sound like a good plan to me. Maybe check with some people that exist in this reality before waiting for an answer from God. Fact is, you got a lot of people that are real telling you right now that it's bad and that you should stop. But no. All right. Speaking of people calling for Biden to drop out that aren't God, but are in fact living human beings, let's go to this ABC News story here from 11 hours ago, where calls from Democrats for Biden to drop out increase.
The Democratic Party in turmoil this morning, just 4 months from Election Day and weeks before the nominating convention. More Democratic lawmakers are abandoning the president. ABC's Selena Wang joins us now from the White House with the latest. Good morning, Selena.
Hey, good morning, Gio. President Biden is trying to stop the bleeding, but panic in the Democratic Party is only spreading. More donors and allies I'm speaking to say the president is in denial about his ability to defeat Donald Trump.
This morning, crisis in the Democratic Party deepens. Now a 5th Democratic lawmaker calling for President Biden to drop out of the race. Congresswoman Angie Craig from Minnesota saying, "I do not believe that the president can effectively campaign."
This is more people than I actually remember, because the 25 or so people that I was talking about were people doing this behind the scenes. I believe there is some sort of document circulating asking for Joe Biden to turn down, that is getting signed on by by representatives in Congress. But this is just people coming out in public and saying it, which is a completely different situation from what I had been talking
Win against
about before
Donald Trump. More lawmakers could soon join the chorus. Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries is planning to hold a meeting with Democratic leaders in the House this afternoon, sources tell ABC News. And ABC News has also learned Senator Mark Warner is working to get a group of Senate Democrats together to discuss whether Biden should step aside. Senator Tammy Baldwin from Battleground, Wisconsin, says she'll have lots of discussions with her colleagues when Congress reconvenes on Monday.
I'll be seeing and interacting with my colleagues. I'm sure we'll have lots of discussion.
But when George Stephanopoulos asked what Biden would do if top members of Congress asked him to step aside, the president was defiant.
Well, it's like, they're not going to do that.
You sure?
Well, yeah, I'm sure. Look, I mean, if the Lord Almighty came out and said, Joe, get out of the race, I get out of the race, the Lord Almighty's not coming down.
More donors are sounding the alarm after that interview. Mega donor Reed Hastings, the co-founder of Netflix, saying Biden is unfortunately in denial about his mental state. He needs to step aside to let a vigorous Democratic leader beat Trump.
They're trying to push me out
I
of the
struggle
race.
to agree with Reed Hastings.
Well, let me say this
pretty
clear
much
as
at
I
all
can.
times.
I'm staying in the race.
Even after Biden's fiery campaign rally in Wisconsin on Friday, not all voters there were convinced.
Actually, yes. Let's listen to
Say
some,
this rally
normal
changed
people.
or didn't change your perception of the president?
Well, I wouldn't say it changed my perception of the president. I mean, I think what happened last Thursday night was worrisome.
Thursday made me worry, and I think he's bounced back in this kind of setting. I want to see him in other settings.
The Biden campaign believes they can still turn things.
We're talking about the Kamala possibility. Yeah, I think I'm on the same train as BCAT. I would greatly prefer some kind of a mini primary, like a real primary that was, I don't know, genuinely discussed. Unlike what we had previously. Since we're talking about this, I think we should talk about something else. But like, I would still take Kamala over Biden 100%, right? That's 100. That's just at this point, like 1,000%. But that is one thing I really wanted to talk about that I think we didn't talk about previously. But this really genuinely deserves a look at it. A primary would give us a 68 convention. Yeah, and my concern is that we've already wasted a lot of time on that, so that it becomes less and less of a viable option. But one thing that I did want to point out here. Oh God, where is it? I should have just saved this tab. Okay, I'm just going to go through this real quick, because this is something that I found to be quite revealing, something that hasn't been really talked about at all since the primary. But we were all talking about voting uncommitted, right? It was a huge thing in a lot of pro-Palestinian circles on the internet. And I looked through the results of the Democratic primaries and realized that uncommitted got something like 10% of the vote across the country, which is huge in comparison to what it usually gets. It's a massive number. I should have sat there and totaled it all up, but it really goes to show, and it beat out regular candidates as well, all over the place, right? And for instance, right here, I'm looking at Kentucky, 18% uncommitted vote, right? And this kind of stuff that I feel like the Biden campaign has just been flat out ignoring up to this point, out loud and behind closed doors, right? Because, for instance, Joe Biden literally said at one point months ago to protesters he didn't give a shit. Not verbatim, but nearly. And the way they've continued to run this campaign, even with the amount of pushback he's gotten now, with zero sort of what's the word? Ugh. I need something to tell me the words that I'm thinking of. Oh, God. My brain is broken. Oh, that is helpful. Thank you, Stephen K. All right, let's just go to this video while I'm still thinking about this. It is going to break me if I don't think of this word. Let's go to NBC News here. This is another Democrat telling Joe Biden, essentially, it's probably time to step out of the race. You'll be perhaps shocked to hear that the individual that we're about to listen to is Representative Adam Schiff. That's right, one of the most establishment sort of like neo-lib like Democrats that I feel like is for a long time has been like pretty much allied with Joe Biden on practically everything in Congress. I mean, this one, when I saw this, I was like, what? Adam fucking Schiff.
And joining me now is Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff of California, a candidate for Senate. Congressman Schiff, welcome back to Meet the Press. Thank you for being here.
Great to be with you.
It is great to have you here. I want to get your gut reaction to that interview on Friday night. Obviously, the president trying to turn the page. Based on what you saw, do you think he is still the strongest candidate to beat former President Trump?
Well, ultimately, this is a decision President Biden is going to have to make, and President Biden alone. But I would say this, he has been an extraordinary president. He has created millions and millions of jobs. He has expanded and strengthened our NATO alliances. He has brought back manufacturing in this country. He has brought about the most aggressive attack on climate.
This is Adam Schiff assuming Biden is watching this and is buttering him up right now. Just listing off all the accomplishments that he can possibly think of to throw Biden's way before telling him, pal, maybe it's time.
He has done more in one term than most presidents ever do, no matter how many terms they get. And he's running against someone who's a pathological liar, someone who ran the country into the ground by his mishandling of a deadly pandemic, someone who is a pathological, not only a pathological liar, but is immoral, indecent, unfit for office. But the performance on the debate stage, I think, rightfully raised questions among the American people about whether the president has the vigor to defeat Donald Trump. And this is an existential race. Given Joe Biden's incredible record, given Donald Trump's terrible record, he should be mopping the floor with Donald Trump. Joe Biden is running against a criminal. It should not be even close, and there's only one reason it is close, and that's the president's age. And
it's not the only
what I would say, Kristen, what I would advise the president is seek out the opinions of people you trust. He's obviously talked to his family about this, and that's important. But he should seek out people with some distance and objectivity. He should seek out pollsters who are not his own pollsters. He should take a moment to make the best informed judgment. And if the judgment is run, then run hard and beat that SOB.
Congressman, what is your opinion? I mean, you watched that interview on Friday, and a lot of Democrats say it was fine. He certainly seems...
I mean, I gotta say, maybe you're not getting the same vibes I am, but that felt like Adam Schiff telling Joe Biden that you are fucking this up, and it's getting way too close, and it's time to pack it up. Most people aren't paying attention until after Labor Day. That's true. That's true to some degree. Although, I mean, the debate got 50 million views just at least I think that was just on cable television. I could be wrong. Might also include internet views.
Longer, more robust than during the debate, but it didn't put concerns to rest. Are you confident he can beat Donald Trump, or do you think he should drop out of the race?
The interview didn't put concerns to rest. No single interview is going to do that. And what I do think the president needs to decide is, can he put those concerns aside?
Was it the lowest rated debate in many years? Interesting. I did not know that fact.
He demonstrated to the American people that what happened on the debate stage was an aberration, that he can and will beat Donald Trump. Given this Supreme Court decision, now essentially making any future Trump a dictator and a king, it's all the more important. But here's the thing. I think if the president takes the time to consult people and has an open mind about this, he will do what Joe Biden always does, which is he will make the right decision. He'll make the decision in the best interest of...
Joe Biden always makes the right decision, Adam. Come on, pal. That's just that's factually inaccurate. Who cares what Adam thinks? I mean, the only reason that we're listening to Adam Schiff is that he is such like an establishment sort of center, like a centrist Democrat, right? Because I feel like this is like they're not listening to leftists complaining about it. I mean, leftists were complaining about Joe Biden from before 2020. So, you know, like when somebody like this comes out to criticize Joe Biden and to say, hey, maybe it's time to let Kamala in, because in fact, she does ask the question.
Country. That's what he is.
I'm trying to remember where it is. I think it's like around here. I was about to move it forward to this. But I think in here she asks the question, what he thinks about Kamala. And he answers it very differently than the way he's talking about Biden right now.
Talk to Democrats. One of the exchanges that frustrated the most from that interview on Friday was when he was asked
the leadership ability to be an extraordinary president.
Could she win overwhelmingly, Congressman?
I think she very well could win overwhelmingly, but before we get into was give the next occupant of that office, whether it's Joe Biden or anyone else, nearly dictatorial power.
Yeah, I want to ask you about that coming up, but let me very quickly ask you about the vice president. You saw the polling. One poll shows her doing better against former President Trump. Do you think she's a stronger candidate to take on Donald Trump?
I think the vice president would be a phenomenal president. I think she has the experience, the judgment, the leadership ability to be an extraordinary president.
Could she win overwhelmingly, Congressman?
I think she very well could win overwhelmingly, but before we get into a decision about who else it should be, the president needs to make the decision whether it's him. I don't want to get into a debate. I don't think it's good for the party to get into a debate over, okay, if not him, then whom, but rather let's focus on the fundamental decision.
I want to get...
Okay, all right. That's enough. That's enough of that. We need Obama. I don't think Obama can run for another term. I think that's unconstitutional, supposedly. A 30% decline in people watching the debate from just 4 years ago. Yeah. It also makes sense as it's an incumbent versus the same person that they went against in the previous debate. Because I think for a lot of people, it's just like it's already run sort of debate in their heads. I think a lot of people have their, they have their minds made up. An Obama intervention. Interesting. I see. So you need Obama to get in there and tell Joe to give it up. I can see that. I can see how that would work. All right. I figured we'd end our... Actually, wait. No, we have... No, fuck it. Let's just... yeah, let's just go straight to this one. This is from, I think you all know, but if not, this is from The Majority Report with Sam Cedar. Christian nationalist state official delivers a terrifying proclamation. This one's fun. This one's real fun. In the spirit of Sunday FUNDAY. I mean, wow. And by fun, I mean terrifying.
One of the things that I think we can look forward to in a Trump administration would be the furtherance of theocracy. Why? Because the Republican Party is very, very dependent on so-called evangelical Christians and Christian nationalists for its votes, and many of its elected officials are also Christian nationalists. Here is Ryan Walters of Oklahoma. He is the Oklahoma Superintendent of Public Instruction. And this is him just about, I don't know, almost a week ago, announcing at a news conference that Bibles will be required and Bible instruction will be required in schools.
Jesus, I say that.
We're going to make an important announcement today regarding the Bible and the Ten Commandments. My staff has been looking at Oklahoma statute. We've been looking at Oklahoma academic standards. And it's crystal clear to us that in the Oklahoma academic standards, under Title 70, multiple occasions, the Bible is a necessary historical document to teach our kids about the history of this country, to have a complete understanding of Western civilization, to have an understanding of the basis of our legal system, and is frankly, when we're talking about the Bible, one of the most foundational documents used for the Constitution and the birth of our country. We also find major points in history that refer to the Bible, that reference the Bible. We see multiple figures, whether we're talking about the Federalist Papers, constitutional conventional arguments, and Martin Luther King Jr., who use it as a tremendous impetus for the civil rights movement, and tie many of those arguments back to the Bible. It is essential that our kids have an understanding of the Bible and its historical context. So we will be issuing a memo today that every school district will adhere to, which is that every teacher, every classroom in the state will have a Bible in the classroom and will be teaching from the Bible in the classroom to ensure that this historical understanding is there for every student in the state of Oklahoma in accordance with our academic standards.
This is just ridiculous. Oh my God. Why? And this is clearly unconstitutional. I don't see how this could possibly be allowed in a state-run institution. Same thing with the other governor. What was it, Georgia? Who wanted Mississippi? I can't remember who it was. They wanted to put the Ten Commandments in there. But I mean, if you go by the same thinking, there's been plenty of times that, I don't know, like the Quran has been important in history, or perhaps Buddhism or Judaism or any other sorts of things like that. There's been plenty of times where, I don't know, like socialism and communism were important, right? Maybe we should get in the writings of Marx. It's possible. Maybe we'll get some really good stuff in schools because of this. And we're just going to allow just random shit like that in there. I mean, should be able to get pretty wild with it. America had a real socialist party in the early 1900s. That's true. Maybe we should force children to read about the McCarthy era and what that did to socialism in the United States. maybe next to the Bible, you should have every single other religious document ever created in history in order to create balance in this ridiculous plan of this clearly fascist man in a too tight suit. All right, let's talk about something also related to the church and Christianity, but this one is in Canada, where the Catholic Church has recently been ordered to pay over $104 million to abuse victims in Newfoundland.
The Mount Cashel Orphanage for Boys in St. John's was demolished in 1992, and the fight to compensate those abused there was just beginning.
It triggers for them some of the worst experience of their lives.
Now, survivors know just how much they'll receive. An insolvency process has determined the bankrupt Roman Catholic Episcopal Corporation of St. John's should pay out $104 million for 292 claims. Some of those claims from survivors who have since died, many abused at Mount Cashel.
But others were altar boys or parishioners or were students in Catholic schools. And as well, of course, I say men, there were some women who were survivors of abuse at the hands of priests or in their school system.
Legal claims against the church for the abuse date back 25 years, all eventually forcing the Episcopal Corporation to file for bankruptcy in 2021 and start selling off assets, including churches. But it's still short, raising only about $43 million so far. In a statement to Global News, the Archbishop of St. John's says the church, quote, will continue to liquidate property for the benefit of the claimants. Any amount outstanding.
So sad. The poor Catholic Church unable to get all that money together to make up for all of its abuse victims. Maybe, along with the Bible, should come teaching in school about the danger of religion for young people. Not just on their critical thinking, but on their literal safety from pedophiles. Just for context, just for historical context, like the Oklahoma governor was saying. He just wanted it because it's important to history. Well, this has been going on for a long time, and we have a lot of documented evidence of it, certainly in the recent decades. And I just want us to be accurate with history, like that guy was saying. You wouldn't want people not to know important stuff about Christianity. Why would you want to keep people from knowing the important history of Christianity? My God. That is censorship, and I will not allow it.
Illegal.
Okay. Let's look at this. This is fun. This is actual fun that was being had by people I think this was in San Francisco, where the annual Hill Bomb was had, although the police attempted to stop it.
Meantime, San Francisco police plan to increase safety measures ahead of an unsanctioned skateboarding event at Dolores Park. The department says it is rumored this year's Hill Bomb event has been canceled. Crop 4's Gail Ong was at a news conference at SFPD headquarters earlier today. She joins us live now in San Francisco with the latest on this, Gail.
Yeah, Stephanie, SFPD wants to keep the public safe. In past events, there have been injuries, serious injuries where people landed in a coma and even deaths at this event. So every first week of July, this is when the skaters like to gather over by 21st Street and Dolores and, go down that hill. There was a rumor that this event is canceled, but police are hoping that is the case.
Say officially, we do not intend to allow a hill bomb tomorrow.
That is the message from San Francisco Police Chief Bill Scott Friday, one day before the annual hill bomb event that draws hundreds of skaters riding down a hill near Dolores Park.
We want people to have fun with their skateboards, but what we don't want and can't have is a community that has been taken over, criminal activity, vandalism, assaults on officers, assaults on the public, unsuspecting pedestrians and motorists that
is that what it is?
Are in danger.
This is video from last year's hill bomb where 80 people were
assaults on officers. If this is what he's talking about, I am not very concerned for the officers. They appear to be prepared for some sort of military engagement, and the skateboarders only appear to be prepared for skateboarding. Maybe my judgment is somehow skewed by my wokeness, but if you ask me who in this position is, I'm not even gonna
arrested. In the months following the event, 4 teenagers filed a federal lawsuit alleging wrongful detainment and violation of their rights. Chief Scott says the department has been meeting with the public to hear concerns and
criticism about our officers coming to this event in quote-unquote riot gear.
Yeah.
That is not our intention. Our intention is...
I'm confused. So everybody was just already dressed? Like, whatever, this 100 or so officers, they were already dressed in riot gear, and then they just happened to show up like that. That's what it is. Wasn't their intention, people. So definitely just take that into account. Weird. Very weird.
Real simple. Our intention is to keep the community safe.
According to SFPD, it is rumored this year's event may be canceled, but for those who plan to gather to ride down the hill, barricades will be up along 20.
Right, so the police put barricades up all over the place. The skaters said, oh, it's over, we're not going to do it. And then just did it on the street next to it, which I thought was brilliant. Wait, what? Did I save it to the wrong playlist? Oh, son of a bitch. Well, just rest assured that the event did in fact happen, that the San Francisco skateboarders said, we'll just go to the next street, which is just as hilly, and they bombed that hill. May you have another emotional support character? Sure you can. Okay, let's go to a story in the center of the country. Was that 20? That is a Buddy Jesus on a Raptor. That one I know. In my heart and in my head. They can't close all of the streets. So true. So very true. Now, these are two... we actually have two stories on housing. Both of them happen to be in Denver. And I think the two of them juxtaposed kind of shows us some of the problems with how government is trying to deal with the housing crisis right now, right? And deal with the unhoused in the United States. First, we're going to start with this one. This is from 2 days ago. Denver 7. Former hotel Denver purchased over a year ago for the unhoused is still not open. And get ready for it. It gets worse. It gets worse. This is so stupid.
Well, tonight there's a lot of questions surrounding a former Denver hotel that was supposed to help people get off the streets. Well, converting hotels, as you know, has been a key part of the city's strategy to combat homelessness.
But one project still hasn't opened nearly a year after the city spent $9 million of your tax dollars on it.
Denver 7's Brandon Richard went looking for answers.
And we have been focused on this very complex challenge of homelessness.
In 2021, then Mayor Michael Hancock stood in front of the Stay-In Hotel at 38th and Peoria and announced plans for the city to buy the hotel and convert it into a shelter for people experiencing homelessness.
This building here behind us represents hope, the transformation that can take place on this property, and the transformation that is possible for the people who will call it home.
Fast forward to 2023, and Denver's new mayor, Mike Johnston, announced the city had finally bought the 96-room hotel for $9 million.
Can you ask, BCAT, can you ask me? Yeah, no, I already rolled it for it. I thought I said it out loud. Maybe I was thinking it to myself. But yeah, Buddy Jesus on a Raptor. I rolled a 20.
We do also want to announce we're excited about the acquisition formally of another hotel property. This is the Stay Inn, which will represent about 100 units of housing.
But this is what 3 years and $9 million of taxpayer money have produced. A boarded-up hotel not one person has been able to move into. Now, in addition to boarding up the windows, the city also put up this chain-link fence in an effort to keep people off the property.
Do you see what I'm saying here? This is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. How is it possible that it's taken them 3 years to figure out how to facilitate this? And while that's happening, they're attempting to keep the very people that they're planning to house off of the property. It is the most oxymoronic thing. It is so paradoxical that I am left just pulling my hair out, wondering what timeline is this? This is the worst of all timelines. But seriously, this is just so dumb. $10 million 3 years later, empty hotel, boarded up and fenced off, keeping the unhoused people it's supposed to house on the street. Because that makes sense. Now here's a different idea on housing, which the city of Denver is actually planning to study. That being the potential of social housing to increase affordable housing access. Interesting. Do tell us more, please.
I'm Richard Butler with Denver 7. Affordable housing is a top priority here in Denver. There are programs to help ease the burden for some, but more options for folks could come as early as next year.
I closed on my home in December 2019, so I've lived here for about 4.5 years.
David Kugler was able to purchase his home with help through the Department of Housing Stability's Affordable Home Ownership Program. The program provides housing opportunities to low to medium income households at a lower price than if the home was on the open market. While the city currently holds the deed, David will be the sole owner after the house is paid off.
So there was a market rate appraisal for the purchase of the home, and an inspector came in, gave a market rate appraisal, but the city actually is the one that determined the actual purchase price in order to keep this affordable for people like me.
This is one of a few housing options.
I just noticed it. This guy's wearing a great shirt.
Affordable for people like me.
This is one of a few housing options in Denver, but another program could be available for Denverites as early as next year. District 8 Councilwoman Chantel Lewis calls it social housing. Social housing actually removes the income requirements and replaces it with a percentage that you would pay. Social housing is usually owned by the city and under community control.
No matter if you make $200,000 or if you make $20,000,
that you're only paying a certain percentage of your income.
The range is from 20 to 35% of your gross income. Here's what that looks like. Census data shows non-family households in Denver County have a median income of $67,000. That means after taxes, you would take home an estimated $4,118 per month. So your rent could be as low as $1,107 and as high as $1,954. That's actually 47% of your take-home income.
If we decided to put dollars to that, right, as a city, I think you could actually see that as early as 2025, to be honest, because not all social housing buildings have to be things that we are building from the ground up.
The city is currently in a study for social housing. It's estimated to wrap by the end of summer.
We can house people and also still allow people to have some expendable income at the end of the day.
Now, this is an interesting idea, right? But I do really think that the best solution for the rise in the cost of housing is for the government to come in and literally mandate a a ceiling on rent, which is lower than whatever the average rent is or mortgage in the country is, right? Because while I like this idea, we just need housing to stop being this commodity which people continue to bid the price of upwards, causing much of these problems. All right, let's look at something fun. Because it is Sunday, Fun Day. I am trying to mix some fun stories in here. This is from Global News from 2 days ago.
It's something you only see in the movies.
Did they, come to life on their own at night? Call Uber and go off for a makeover? I can't say.
Yep, I'm pretty sure that's what happened.
Legend has it gnomes come alive at night, and while it would be an interesting tale to tell, for Kelowna resident Kelly Blair, his gnomes disappeared, but not because they suddenly came to life.
I had a garage sale a month or so ago, had a bunch of things like a canoe and some tools taken, and a few days later I realized that all but one of my gnome collection was also missing.
At first, Blair believed the gnomes were stolen from his property. He said they were gone for about a month or so, but it wasn't up until 2 days ago when Blair finally received some answers about what happened to his garden gnomes when a woman knocked on his door.
She means a gnome. A gnome knocked on his door. There's no earthly explanation for any of this. Those gnomes are just alive, kind of like in Toy Story. When we look at them, they don't look alive, and then the second we look away, they're out there doing stuff. So that's what happened. And don't ask for the real context. I mean the fabricated global news media explanation of this, which is that some human took it and painted it. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I won't hear it. All right. While we're in Canada, I figured we would look at this. LCBO workers rally on day 2 of the strike that has shuttered its liquor stores.
It's day 2 of a dry summer in Ontario. As
After 9,000 LCBO workers walked off the job following unsuccessful negotiations between the union and the province, prompting closures at province-owned liquor stores.
What this strike is about the privatization of alcohol sales in such a way that it strips revenue out of public health care and education.
The union says LCBO brings in about $2.5 billion for healthcare, education, and infrastructure, and the privatization will strip that away.
There are other models that can be considered besides siphoning off money, public runs, and putting it into corporate pockets. That's what we'd like to talk about over the coming days.
That seems like a very reasonable ask. Hey, can you stop enriching corporations and instead enrich Canadians as a whole? Incredibly reasonable.
Rally in downtown Toronto, leader of Ontario's opposition, Merritt Stiles, pointing fingers at the Ford government.
He's nowhere, and I think that's really unfortunate because this is on him, right? And I think, while Doug Ford is, at the cottage or wherever he is this weekend, hard-working Ontarians are working every day.
The province has not yet commented on the strike. Consumers today say they sympathize with the workers and their right to strike. But as for finding booze, they'll manage finding other options.
Liquor is liquor is liquor. We'll find it somewhere.
Workers, they have their own rights. But second, it's a summertime. We really needed them. Please come by. God bless you guys.
I am starting to look at different, what grocery stores have to offer that maybe I haven't looked at before or really paid attention to.
On Friday, the LCBO said they will be reopening 5 different retail locations next week to allow bar and restaurant owners to stock up amid the strike. But workers
bringing in liquor scabs. Either way, solidarity with those workers. Those reasons sounded very, very much like sort of bare bones on what you should be expecting from a government-run organization. I didn't know there were non-alcoholic beverages until just now. It's weird how that works. Alright, now, we're going to start moving in the direction of the environment. I figured we would look at this on our way there. This is from Cron 4 from a day ago. So yeah, it's going to be Bay Area. PG&E prepares for power outages in San Rafael.
And lots of eyes on the upcoming weekend when it does come to that heat. As Kyla mentioned, that heat advisory continues with more brutal temperatures set to impact residents and the grid. Crowd 4's Teresa Estacio joins us live now with more on how PG&E and Bay Area residents are trying to win this war against the heat. Teresa.
Well, Stephanie, it certainly is a battle. We're here in San Rafael where it's just a cool 89 degrees. I say that, compared to what the temperatures are like over in Livermore and so forth. But here at the PG&E Service Center, crews here trying to make sure that we get through this weekend safely.
Well, going into the weekend, we have crews pre-positioned. We have equipment ready to go. In fact, we had over 3,000 coworkers and contract partners working through the July 4th holiday, and we have another 1,500 on standby. All of those coworkers and contract partners will be working through the holiday weekend as well.
PG&E says that they have bulked up their staffing and put them in strategic areas around the Bay Area to be ready to react if necessary. On Tuesday, power outages struck sections of Danville, San Ramon, and Dublin. This is video from PG&E from inside their operations center. The center is staffed 24 hours a day to monitor the system.
Greenish, maybe a yellowish tone in the morning, let's say. As conditions heat up, you'll see a lot more orange and red, and that's when we start getting real concerned.
Flying off the shelves has got to be straw hats, fans, and air conditioners. We also got a huge amounts of water going out to the guys on job sites.
At Jackson Hardware in San Rafael, all things associated with trying to keep cool, flying off the shelf.
Yeah, and that's the thing about the grid, unfortunately, is when things get super hot, people start using more air conditioning, and if for some reason that exceeds the capacity of whatever source is fueling that grid, you can wind up in these sorts of situations where outages happen. It's 95 degrees at 11:40 p.m. in Philadelphia. That is gross. Ugh. All right, but before we start talking about anything too serious, I figured we'd look at this little story here from CBS Evening News from a day ago. Endangered parrots trade the tropics for Los Angeles's asphalt jungles.
Birds of a feather are flocking together in the streets of Los Angeles. They're wild parrots that were going extinct in their native Mexico. CBS's Joy Benedict reports.
It's the call of the wild. Parrot, that is. Drowning out the traffic is the sound of thousands of these wild birds who have traded the tropics for LA's concrete jungle. The squawks ruffle some feathers.
Some people complain about the noise from the parrots, but most of the people I've talked to really, really like them.
Parrots are native to Mexico, but now thrive in Southern California.
This is a red-crowned parrot. It's got the cherry red crown.
At Occidental College, biologist John McCormick and other researchers with the Free Flying Parrot Project are studying how the birds are feasting and breeding their way back from the brink of extinction.
They're endangered in their home range in Mexico, and so having a self-sustaining population here might be an important part.
This is, see, like when I first watched this is not what I was expecting at all from this story, right? And that somehow these birds that escaped like captivity in Los Angeles homes are now breeding these parrots out of being endangered, at least, you know, just generally speaking, while they are still endangered in their homeland, which is unfortunate for sure. It's just, you know, it's just I guess I wasn't thinking about this. Like, I've heard of things like reptiles, right? Snakes, alligators, and things like that. About like fish. I wasn't thinking about the birds for whatever reason.
Keeping them from going extinct.
Most of LA's parrots are either the lilac-crowned or the red-crowned, which come from opposite coasts of Mexico. Both populations have been declining for decades in their native land.
The biggest danger to the parrot would be the habitat destruction and the poaching.
But this is a parrot paradise with plenty of fruit trees and flowers.
Typically, they'll choose streets that are lined with trees, so they have a lot of different habitat where they can land on, spend the night in.
Los Angeles is like a huge botanic garden.
Why are they here?
That's a big question of debate here in the city. What we do know is that they were brought here for the pet trade.
Parrots don't migrate, so experts believe the noisy newcomers came to California as pets, and once freed, got friendly.
Yeah, that makes the most sense. Although, I think someone in chat mentioned, yeah, climate change making Los Angeles a more suitable environment for them. I mean, I feel like it was already a pretty suitable environment for them to begin with, being in Southern California. But yeah, it's certainly getting hotter there too. Every year, every day, seemingly almost. All right, on to things that are less fun than that. And I know. Maybe it wasn't the most fun thing. So you're probably thinking to yourself, well, what else do you have for us today? Well, you'll see. Not a lot of good stuff. All right, let's actually go north from there to Seattle. Got a few things to talk about here, seemingly. First, let's look at this from 2 days ago, where neighbors are fighting to protect a delicate shoreline from luxury home development. Can get on board with that, I think.
Impact statement.
Wendy Larson leads regular walking tours of this shoreline around Bellingham's Mud Bay.
This is one of the few remaining spots that Bellingham has.
Low tide reveals a fragile ecosystem involving a major estuary and habitat for all sorts of sea life and birds. The property owners here want to build an exclusive 38-acre, 38-lot subdivision off Chuckanut Drive. When Wendy heard the news, she thought one thing.
Gosh, this is an extremely bad idea.
Those 38 lots, called the Woods at Viewcrest, could hold up to 152 houses, condos, and townhomes, radically altering this landscape forever.
I couldn't believe that they were proposing such a thing. It was so many houses right above such a sensitive area.
Neighbors worry about the destabilization of the hillside, as well as the impacts on salmon, shellfish, and Bellingham's last existing heron colony, a colony the city paid $700,000 to save when developers chased them off land just a mile away years ago.
There's a lot of passion and heart that has gone into helping to protect the Post Point herons.
Neighbors are demanding the developers submit an independent environmental impact statement to the city. So far, one has not been conducted.
I don't think we can trust the developers to hire their own experts.
It's an experiment I don't really want to run.
The developer has not returned our calls for comment. Wendy Larson believes an EIS is the minimum developers should do to be sure the impacts on the waters of Mud Bay are crystal clear.
We're not against development. We just want to make sure that it's following all of the things that are there to protect the public and protect the environment.
That seems very reasonable. Good question, FG. Why does Soul Life hate parrots? We need answers. We need answers to that question. Although, the one thing that I feel like I wish we didn't have a housing crisis, it makes me want to like support anytime anybody says they're building a house anywhere. But no, I'm going to try and hold back because we know we have a bunch of other solutions for that. As there's a bunch of empty real estate currently sitting in the hands of the ultra wealthy and private equity, other things like that, that we could legislate into into existence in the market. Would completely change the face of all of the housing crisis. All right, we're not going to leave Washington State. We're going to talk about this, as there is a heat advisory going through this whole weekend, which is, I suppose, ending shortly, but I figured we'd at least peek at this right now to see what people in
We take a live look around Western Washington tonight. Things are heating up, and it's only going to get hotter from here. We are in first alert mode with temperatures climbing into the 90s in most areas. A heat advisory is in effect through Tuesday. And while some people are welcoming the warm up, it's also a recipe for wildfires, heat-related illnesses, and dangerous conditions on the water. So let's get right over to our meteorologist, Adam Claybon, tracking this heat wave. Then, Adam, you have a look at what we're expecting.
Yeah, so Madison, today we've made it into a lot of the upper 80s and even saw a few more 90s in comparison.
Yeah, so I mean, if you're not aware, Washington is, aside from Alaska, the most northern state on the northwest coast of the United States, and yet they are in the mid-90s in places in the state already. Doesn't sound fun. Also wound up leading to this from a couple of days ago, a fire in Wenatchee, prompting level 3 evacuations. Do not know exactly where Wenatchee is.
Also monitoring some breaking news now east of the Cascades in Chelan County. A level 3 evacuation order is now in effect for a fire burning in Wenatchee. Take a look at this video from the National Weather Service showing the fire. We're told this is sparking, or rather sparked earlier this morning. Let's take a
It looks like the wind is blowing in the direction of the town. That is bad.
closer look at those evacuations now. That area in red just south of the Wenatchee River is under level 3 evacuations, which means the residents in those neighborhoods need to leave their homes now. Neighborhoods bordering the red area.
I really wish they hadn't zoomed in. I mean, I'm glad I know, but from here I was like, oh, seems fine. Doesn't look like there's a lot of houses right there.
Is under level 3 evacuations, which means the residents in those neighborhoods need to leave their homes now. Neighborhoods bordering the red area need to be ready to leave if fire officials extend any urgent evacuations. The Red Cross is setting up resources for evacuees at the Seventh-day Adventist Church on Western.
Okay. Some of those details are probably completely meaningless to most of us, as my guess is. How many people are in here? 23? Yeah, I feel like probably nobody here is from Wenatchee. I could be wrong. But I'm assuming none of us know where that church is actually located. Anyway, let's go on to this. Not done talking about fires, because California is still just wildly just burning down faster and faster by the second. Okay, that's a little hyperbolic. Or what is that? That's not the right word. Oh, because I was trying to avoid using the other word. Oh, God. All right, let's look at this one. Cron 4 from a day ago. Contra Costa County firefighters respond to multiple vegetation fires.
And those were just a few of the calls that Contra Costa Fire had to respond to. Our Cron 4's Leslie Gooden talked with officials about their very busy night.
4th of July celebrations combined with the ongoing heat wave are leading to nonstop calls to firefighters in the East Bay.
So we normally get about 310 incidents that we are responding to daily. But yesterday we got 310 vegetation fires.
According to Contra Costa County Fire, on Thursday they responded to more than 1,000 calls for service, nearly doubling their daily average.
Over 90% of the calls that we got yesterday were related to fireworks. The heat also added to that, being as hot and dry as it is.
With the heat wave expected to continue through the weekend, crews are bracing for more potential fires.
When you pull a lot of resources to a fire, then we're not really limited. I don't want to say that, but you're pulling resources away from maybe a medical emergency that could be nearby as well. So if we can control the controllables, it'll make the day and this weekend a lot better for everyone.
Contra Costa County health officials say they are seeing people coming to their doors because of the extreme heat.
Okay. Did he say Contra Costa County? He definitely did. I also said it twice. Definitely said it. You're not imagining things. Okay, but there's a bunch of other fires that are going on in California. Last time we checked, there was over 100 different fires happening in California. That was like a few days ago. We checked on the state of that. Let's go here to Riverside County, where a brush fire has triggered evacuation orders there.
We do want to get back to that breaking news, that brush fire in Riverside County that has prompted evacuation orders. NBC4's Kristen Kazaris has arrived on the scene. He joins us now live with the latest breaking details on the Hills fire. Christian.
Well, I can tell you we are near the corner of Juniper Flats Road and Mapes Road, where this area right here, as you can see, has been set up as a command center. But I do want to draw your attention over to what's behind this area out here, up on the hill. That is where the fire is burning. This is the closest point that we can get to because the fire officials tell us it's really burning in a rural area of this community. Now, CAL FIRE Riverside Unit, they responded to reports of a fire around 2:15 this afternoon, and we have learned an evacuation order has been issued for this area. A total of 121 homes were evacuated as firefighters try to really take control of this fire that they're calling the Hills Fire. Now, fire officials tell me the good news was that this fire was originally believed to be 100 acres, but after remapping it, it's now been downsized to 71 acres.
That's good news. It's at least not as bad as some of the other stuff that we're going to be looking at here tonight. Still problematic for some people. Yeah, quickly let's look at this. Guardian. It's kind of showing what it is that firefighters are dealing with right now in California. Fall? Jesus. He was trapped by the fire. He's like hiding on a rock wall. My God. Negative land? I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. I need to look that up. Negative land. Is there intentionally no E in that? Okay, let's look at this. Negative Land is an experimental music band that originated in the San Francisco Bay Area. Interesting. Okay, let's look at this from just 9 hours ago. Santa Barbara County lake fire burns more than 13,000 acres. So we downgraded one from 100 to 71. A fast-moving wildfire in Santa Barbara County, Zaca Lake region has burned down roughly 13,000 acres.
For the Santa Barbara County Fire Department. I'm currently assigned to the lake incident, and I'm standing at the Zaca Lake Resort. You can see behind me here, they did an excellent job of defensible space, which allowed our firefighters from Santa Barbara County and the Los Padres Forest to defend these cabins during the firefight last night. So this is a testament. If you haven't cut your weeds, please do so, and I will give further updates as the fire continues.
The blaze remains active, and as of Saturday afternoon has been contained 0%, according to SafeChuck on X. While the cause of the fire remains unknown, hot, dry, and windy conditions in the region have prompted road closures and evacuations. Yeah, that's bad. That just adds to the list of just absolutely massive fires that we've seen in California. There must have been... Jesus, I think that this is being kind of conservative with this number, but I think there's been at least 60 or 70,000 acres now burned down in California just in this fire season. And it's only July. It goes until, like, I think in some cases, I think like in South California, technically kind of goes until like early September almost, especially with like the increased heating of the planet. These sorts of seasons are being extended. Fire season is included in that. Why is this here? I guess it doesn't matter because it kind of talks about multiple things. But first, let's talk about Canada here, because they've also been dealing with extreme heat up there. What's happening? Oh my god. This is super annoying. There we go. Okay.
Well, Lake Elizabeth has
A look this hour at Kelowna, British Columbia. That's where many parts of the province, including here in the Okanagan Valley, are under a heat warning. Extreme heat is gripping much of Western Canada, with temperatures expected to reach the low 40s in some areas this weekend. There's concern about the heat fanning wildfires in the province, so fire crews are on high alert. The CBC's Wayne Thibodeau has more.
Yeah, well, forecasters are using words like extreme heat warnings are now in place across much of BC and Alberta into the Northwest Territories and stretching as far east as Ontario. And these hot, dry conditions are expected to continue until the middle of next week. In fact, I just checked Kamloops. You're expecting temperatures to be in the 38 to 40 degrees all week long. And that's true across much of the interior of BC, highs of 30s into the low 40s. Calgary today, if you're at the Stampede, temperatures into the 30s as well. And doctors are warning Canadians to take precautions.
So if you don't have air conditioning in your home on a day like this, easy solution is get some fans to at least circulate the air. That will help. Or even better, go to somewhere where there is air conditioning. So go to...
Jesus Christ. I hate this guy's plan. If you don't have air conditioning, well, go buy a bunch of fans. Get those fans. And if you can't do that, then just go to some place that does have air conditioning that's going to let you chill there indefinitely. That's reasonable.
A library, a shopping mall, someplace where there is air conditioning to stay cool. Drink water prophylactically.
Who goes to shopping malls exactly? I don't live in Canada, but in America, most shopping malls are just don't exist anymore. People don't walk around in malls. Like 6 people do. On the planet.
Because being dehydrated will actually make the symptoms and the severity of heat stroke even worse.
Now, not everyone is sad to see these high temperatures. BC bar owners who say they have had to deal with a damp, cold, wet spring are actually...
Oh, good. Oh, good. People's misery is making bar owners money. Therefore, it's good. Thanks, CBC News. Really appreciate your perspective, as always. Yeah, no, I'm kidding. I know that malls do technically exist, although a lot have been genuinely, like, closed down in entirety. But yes, I do know malls actually exist. We recently did a story about Mall of America. So yes, I know they technically exist. You think that's the plan? Just to make the world so just unlivable that people have to move to the mall? Because that seems like a bad plan. All right. Let's look at this story. This is a non-anger inducing and or depressing story from CBS Colorado from 2 days ago. Colorado tubers hit the Clear Creek on 4th of July after delayed opening due to rushing water.
Spending time outside on the water, very popular Colorado thing to do. And with many people off for the 4th of July, Clear Creek in Golden was buzzing today. The creek just reopened to recreation this week. Water flows were simply too dangerous earlier. It's already been a deadly season on the water. 26 water-related deaths all across the state. That is outpacing last year, when 32 died during the summer season. During the pandemic in 2022, a record-breaking 42 people died in our waterways. Your reporter in Jefferson County, Andrew Hobner, is in Golden as officials are urging people.
Why does CBS Colorado insist on making this sad? I was trying to make this fun for everyone, and here they are talking about all the water deaths.
To take precautions, number one, put on that life jacket.
With runoff running a little bit longer this year, there was some question between the water levels and the tubing ordinances here in Golden just how busy the 4th of July would be. But here on Clear Creek, it has shown no signs of slowing down. People out enjoying the nice weather and the water, even if it is a little bit colder.
How was it? That's crazy.
Philip Kwasinski and his friends came up from Denver for a little fun on Clear Creek.
My buddy John here picked it out. We just wanted to come out here, have some beers, have a good time, celebrate the 4th.
And found that it was no slow float.
I've been up to like Centennial. There's a couple like places over there you can go tubing, and it's a lot slower, a lot more lazy river-like. This is like, you know, borderline rapids.
But the perfect way to spend the 4th of July. Over at Golden River Sports, people waited in line to rent tubes and hit the water.
By the time... All right, come on. You can't tell me that doesn't look fun. Maybe a little bit dangerous, but come on. Okay. What else do we have to talk about? Oh, we got a bunch of shit. Got a bunch of shit to talk about. How far are we in? Hour 48. I guess we won't leave Colorado just yet. Boulder County is hiring an architecture firm to create a guide for incorporating nature into landscaping.
Boulder County is working on a plan to reduce the risk of natural disasters and pollution. They're partnering with an architecture group to plant trees and gardens into building plans. Denver 7's Sam Pena takes us on a nature walk to show the county's efforts.
Colorado, you step under a tree, right, on a hot day, it can drop down 10, 15 degrees.
For Tim Broderick, a day with nature is life-giving.
I think the co-benefits to human health are just so massive.
Now he's trying to expand these natural environments.
Urban tree canopy coverage, rain gardens, drought-tolerant, pollinator-friendly plantings.
Across Boulder County.
What it means is maximizing the benefits of nature within our urban environment.
Broderick is with Boulder County's Office of Sustainability, which entered a project with the architecture firm Superbloom to integrate nature into urban planning, which they say can mitigate natural disasters.
And they're so interlinked with accelerating floods and heat island effects. And
disasters Broderick experienced firsthand during the 2013 Lions flood.
The flood and sort of got pushed out of my home during that process.
He says rain gardens can soak up water from floods, and tree canopies.
You're just lolling at Boulder County. Harsh. It's harsh. Yeah, they're trying to do whatever they can to integrate nature into their city planning, which I think is smart. As if I'm not mistaken, Boulder has been growing to some degree, even though it's a very small place. Over the years, I believe that's changed somewhat. Okay, let's go south. Yeah, let's go south here to talk about Hurricane Beryl. Oh, Omega Star got third. Well done, Omega. Alright. Yes, Hurricane Beryl. First, let's start with this. This is footage from Hurricane Beryl hitting Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula.
After hitting Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula and downgrading to a tropical storm, experts say Beryl may once again become a hurricane as it hurtles towards southern Texas by Sunday evening. Hurricane Beryl's explosive growth into an unprecedented early storm shows the literal hot water the Atlantic and Caribbean are in right now and the kind of season they can expect. It smashed storm records even before its major hurricane-level winds approached land in Grenada. Experts say the cause is due to water temperatures getting as hot as they do during the peak of hurricane season in September.
I've been here 7 years. I own a business here as well, so it's hard to estimate, what's really going to happen this year, but it seems like it's going to be a heavy hurricane year.
We don't have power since 3 or 4 a.m. until now, and now we can't stand the heat anymore. Damn. We went out for a walk because there was no power. We didn't have any signal at home. Mexican military organized a soup kitchen to distribute food to locals affected by Beryl. So yeah, you heard both sides here. Essentially, we looked at people in the Yucatan Peninsula, and then they were also talking to people. Whoopsies, that's the wrong thing to click. Talking to people who are in Texas, awaiting the approach of Storm Beryl. Now things have changed since that came out. Let's go to this now. As Hurricane Beryl takes aim at Texas, which it is doing, and has now turned into at least a tropical, at least into a...
We now want to switch gears to the other story we're following.
Sorry, category. It's at least a Category 1 storm now as it's approaching. That's what I understand. It may turn into a 2.
We now want to switch gears to the other story we're following closely, the path of that deadly Hurricane Beryl, now projected to hit South Texas as more than 140 million Americans are sweltering through a dangerous heat wave. Here's Priscilla Thompson.
Beryl ripping through the Gulf of Mexico tonight after slamming into the Yucatan Peninsula as a Category 2 storm with 100-mile-per-hour winds. The massive summer hurricane now taking aim at South Texas.
We're preparing for the worst, praying and hoping for the least amount of rain.
The storm already blamed for at least 9 deaths after tearing through parts of the Caribbean this week, carving a path of destruction.
I never really experienced a system like this yet, at this magnitude.
In South Padre Island, Texas, the storm sending some vacationers in town for the holiday weekend packing.
We're getting out before the hurricane.
As residents collect sandbags and prepare to hunker down.
It's always better to be safe than sorry.
Yeah, you're not taking any chances.
Just being prepared.
This as 140 million people face heat alert.
Okay, now let's go on to the most recent stuff I saw on this. This came out like 12 hours ago. This shows people in Texas preparing for the storm.
Now to Beryl. The storm intensifying this morning as it heads for landfall just hours from now in Texas. People on the Gulf Coast, as you can imagine, are on alert for massive storm surge, torrential rain, and damaging wind. ABC's Melissa Adon is in Texas now with the latest. Good morning, Melissa.
Good morning, Gio. So several Texas counties are actually
The poorest will pay the most for climate change. Yeah, that's true.
already under a mandatory evacuation. This while South Texas officials are urging tourists, if you're here, it's time to get out now ahead of Beryl.
This morning, storm preps underway as Tropical Storm Beryl targets the Texas Gulf Coast. South Texas residents loading up on supplies, the Salinas family boarding up their home.
Hurricanes are not to play around with. I'd rather be safe than sorry.
The storm expected to intensify to a Category 1 hurricane, bringing dangerous storm surge as high as 6 feet in some parts.
Anybody who's in a storm surge evacuation zone in this area, if you've been asked to leave by your local officials, you should please get out.
In Galveston, businesses placing tarps to prevent the floodwaters from getting inside.
This area floods when we have heavy rain. You add tidal surge and additional rain on top of that, we run the risk, like anybody else is in downtown Galveston, of having flood or flood water in the building.
The Villalobos family owns this cafe here in Port Lavaca, which is under voluntary evacuation.
Yeah. People are taking this one pretty seriously, it would seem. And what's interesting is that this thing made landfall multiple times. First in the Caribbean, although that's not that much of a barrier to it. Then in Mexico, and now has re-strengthened to an actual hurricane, even though it lost its hurricane categorization over land in Mexico. Though it appears to continue to be ramping up. Let's just look at one more video of people just completely upending their lives here to get ready for this storm which is coming.
Just boarding up, protecting this glass in case we get a little bit too much wind, too much trash blowing. This is 4 or 5 foot surge. It's nothing for us in town, you know. You're on the low-lying areas, obviously. You need to get out of there.
There's a lot of shark attacks that I've been seeing in the news, but we don't watch them because I just feel like it's kind of piling on to all the depressing stuff that we see all the time. But yeah, no, I actually do see a lot of shark attacks happening lately. It's just, do we need to watch people being maimed by sharks as well as humans every day? I argue no. All right, let's go to this from 4 hours ago. CBS Evening News, sort of dissecting where and when Beryl will hit Texas.
CBS meteorologist Andrew Kozak is tracking the storm for us. Good evening, Andrew.
Yeah, good evening, Christine. Once again, we are tracking Beryl, which is really starting to strengthen over the very warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico, poised to come on shore overnight north of Corpus Christi as a Category 1 hurricane. Already seeing the impressive outer bands affecting areas like Corpus Christi and Houston with rain and gusty winds. So we have hurricane warnings now from Padre Island all the way north to Galveston. Beyond that, we have tropical storm warnings all the way to the Louisiana border. Now, all the way into the heart of this storm, we're going to be looking at anywhere between 5 and 8 inches of rain here. That's going to cause flooding. We're also locally going to be looking at upwards of 10 inches of rain. That and the storm surge is the reason why we have so many people evacuated along the coast. We're also looking at winds up to 95 miles per hour. Elsewhere, tracking the heat across the
95 mile per hour winds. That's quite high. And it could still increase. The Gulf is very warm, feeding this. Does it say 122 degrees? Jesus fucking Christ. That is insane. I think that. Fuck, that's hot.
So hot right now.
Let's go to this one. We're not done talking about fires yet. It's the last one, though, at least for today. And we've only hit a tiny slice of all the fires that are happening in the United States. We only have this much time. I'm already behind. Oh, God. The state of this timeline is unacceptable. Where is Bacula? Bacula, you are needed. Evacuation ordered at Wharton State Forest as brush fire spreads. We were talking about this a couple of days ago, I think on Friday. Well, it has continued and gotten much worse.
Developing news out of central Jersey, where a brush fire that's already burned 1,200 acres. It erupted inside Wharton State Forest in Burlington County. A campground has been evacuated and 2 structures are in harm's way, including a home. The fire is about 40% contained.
40%, okay. I feel like anytime I hear anything less than 50%, I still think of it as just being out of control. Maybe that's just my sort of limited knowledge on fires. When you're telling me a fire over 1,000 acres is only 40% contained, I get bad images in my head. That's probably just my sort of civilian attitude towards fires or something. A lot of shark talk in chat suddenly. When sharks have to come into human territory due to low food supply, the humans have caused shrug emoji. I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Okay. Well, that's the last environmental story here that we have for the day. 6 ABC Philadelphia. From a day ago. Emu escapes from Newtown Township Farm in Bucks County.
New here tonight at 10 o'clock, Action News has learned that the emu that was on the loose out in Bucks County, guess what? It's been captured.
Emu.
Police located the animal in
free.
Rosefield in the back of a wooded area right near Atkins Lane. It went missing late last night from the Earth's Best Organics farm out in Newtown.
They got freaked out from the fireworks and literally busted through fence and escaped and ran away. They ran very, very fast.
Last night, a crowd spotted the bird and tried to trap it, but it got away. Finally, this evening, crews were able to grab the animal and get it back to safety. Officials say the emu is limping right now, and it will be taken to doctors so it can be evaluated.
Damn. Well, at least that emu got to taste freedom momentarily. How about we nuke the sharks? I've actually got a fantastic plan. I've got an electric boat which actually repels the sharks. It's it's the highest technological advancement ever seen by any person in the history of the world. Well, I hope everybody has been enjoying the show so far. If you haven't already, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. They both really help out. If you've already done both, and you still feel yourself wanting in some way to contribute to this stream, well, I got one good idea for you right here. That is becoming a Galactic producer on my Patreon. For just a few US dollars a month, you can gain access to all sorts of super sweet space benefits unseen by the rest of the Milky Way galaxy. Alright, chat, I will be right back. Make sure to do all the things that you need to do here in this galactic intermission. You think the Liberty Mutual emu wanted freedom from his Liberty Mutual contract? Is that what's going on right now? Okay, I am back. Calling everyone back to their seats. Ready for the global news. Guess we'll start with this one. Space news. Although it's not really, it's not like real space news, as you'll see here. Associated Press from 9 hours ago. 4 NASA volunteers exit the simulated Mars habitat in Texas after 376 days. My God. Oh, wait. I almost forgot. You know, I already, whatever. Already queued that one. We're going to this one first.
The path to Mars is beset with challenges. The crew and their families have committed a year of their lives in service to NASA, to the country, and to humanity's exploration of space. And so thank you. Congratulations and thank you to the crew for putting your previous careers on pause for a year and committing yourself to research that is going to enable our future exploration of space.
Wow, that went by quickly. I really hope I don't cry standing up here in front of all of you.
Tapia 1 has been a unique experience with great challenges, joys and sorrows, and a lot of hard work, with a fair bit of fun thrown in as well.
I've been asked many times, why the obsession with Mars? Why go to Mars? Because it's possible. Because space can unite and bring out the best in us.
So this has been a wonderful experience, and I really hope this helps us get that much closer to the reality of putting boots on Mars. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now,
hey, settle down. Keir Starmer, getting in the way of me talking about Mars, which is so incredibly important. Of course, I'm joking. I just found it funny the way that I originally thought that when I first started reading it. I was like, wait, NASA, and like in my head I thought that they'd actually gone to Mars. And I was like, what? When did this happen? And I was like, oh wait, no, you mean Texas. That's definitely different. TV successfully off of the stairwell. Why was the TV in the stairwell? That's the question I have right now. Alright. Well, I think everybody knows what's about to happen. We're about to talk about the election in the United Kingdom. I guess I'll just let Keir Starmer start this off, telling us what he thinks is gonna happen. Go.
this lack of trust can only be healed by actions, not words. I know that. But we can make a start today with the simple acknowledgement that public service is a privilege and that your government should treat every single person in this country with respect. Changing a country is not like flicking a switch. The world is now a more volatile place. This will take a while. But have no doubt that the work of change begins immediately. Have no doubt that we will rebuild Britain with wealth created in every community, our NHS back on its feet facing the future, secure borders, safer streets, everyone treated with dignity and respect at work, the opportunity of clean British power, cutting your energy bills for good. And brick by brick, we will rebuild the infrastructure of opportunity, the world-class schools and colleges, the affordable homes that I know are the ingredients of hope for...
I mean, some of the stuff he's saying is good. I mean, I've, you know, got some objections to Keir. He does suck quite a lot. And his purging of the left, people like Faiza Shaheen, people like, I keep wanting to say Diane Arbus. I know that's not her name. Why do I keep wanting to say that's her name? Although they were like, I don't know. People like Jeremy Corbyn. So yeah, those are my first most obvious objections to him, aside from his support for Israel, essentially, and yeah, he's got some definite, obvious sort of negatives about him. Starmer is a lying scumbag. That's also a good reason to not like him very much. Diane Abbott, thank you. Thank you. I was actually closer than I felt like I was. That I was only off by like a syllable or two in there. Okay. Look up what happened to Jackie Walker. I will do that. But while I'm doing that, let's look at this. This is what Keir Starmer vowed to focus on as he sets out in his first week as Prime Minister.
Yesterday, the work of change began. We're a Change Labour Party, and yesterday we started the work of changing the country. And as the dust settles on Thursday's result, what is becoming clear for, I think, all to see is the mood of the nation, of the country, what is expected of us, and the mandate that we have to deliver change. It's a mandate not just to govern, although it is certainly that, but it's a mandate that has put trust in us to change the country and to deliver. And it's a mandate to do politics differently, and that change started yesterday as well. We clearly on Thursday got a mandate from all four nations. For the first time in 20+ years, we have a majority in England, in Scotland and in Wales, and that is a clear mandate to govern for all four corners of the United Kingdom. And therefore I shall set off tomorrow to be in all four nations.
Yeah, so, I mean, technically Labour did in fact win the majority in all four nations, as he put it, of the UK. Although there were definitely some spots in which Labour lost to independents, people on the left, such as the Greens, although not nearly enough. Part of that has to do with the first to the post, I think is what it's called, voting system in Britain. Although I'm not an expert on British electoral politics by any means, or how it's all carried out. But let's go on here. Quickly talk about this individual who we already mentioned earlier. That being Jeremy Corbyn, who was re-elected as MP for Islington North after being ousted from the Labour Party and running as an independent.
My job in Parliament will be, as it's always been, to deal with the individual problems that many of our people face, but to speak up where necessary in criticism in order to bring about the social changes that this country needs and my constituency needs. And I'm humbled and proud and very grateful to the people of Islington North, who I've represented for so long and have taught me so much. I owe my life and my learning and my abilities entirely to the people of Islington North. This victory is a dedication to them, and steadfastness in the face of opposition, steadfastness in the face of abuse. We have shown what kinder, gentler, more sensible, more inclusive politics can bring about. I couldn't be more proud of my constituency than I am tonight. I'm proud of our team that brought this result.
Okay, now to discuss this a little bit more, I figured we would go to a very good YouTube channel by the name of Novara Media. Oh god, and my stream software just froze, which is good. Wait, I just clicked the wrong thing. Oh, there we go. Okay, hold on. Okay, yeah. Let's go to Navarro Media. Corbyn's Revenge. An election night to remember.
This is a polling station. I'm Richard. This is 8:15 in the evening, so that's T-minus 1 hour and 45 minutes left to vote.
There's an interesting combination, the momentous and the utterly banal, just crammed together into a single event.
In any other election, I would so comfortably talk about like who I voted, why, what's the rationale. And the biggest struggle in this one is like we have the right to vote and we should vote for like what you want for the country. But I really struggled to find any concrete rationale to stick with any of them. Like you have a conservative government that's run the country economically into the ground, morally corrupt that nobody could stand behind. You have a Labour Party that probably isn't in line with where Labour Party's ever been, so how can you really trust where they want to be? And then you have a Reform UK party now coming up that on the surface of it will capture a lot of the protest votes, but have such worrying underlying racism behind it.
Yeah.
So it's that.
And that's the thing about Keir Starmer and his Labour Party, as he has kind of expressed his desire for the party to push to the center, if you will, and appeal more to the conservative wing. I don't know if it's been exactly in so many words, but I think I'm distilling it pretty well.
Polling station, like where do I sit behind? And you know, you stand there, you say, I have to think like what's best for me in the short-term future, and I made my vote off the back of that. But did I come out of the out of the booth like comfortable from a moral standpoint or confident in the country? It's a sad state of affairs, it really is.
Brilliant. We've got to get off the train, but that was wonderful. Thank you so much.
This music is pretty.
An hour to go. Exit poll comes
Novara.
out at 10. Who knows what the result might be? It is now 10 to 9, as you can see.
It's not like 97 and Tony Blair when everyone was euphoric, but let's just get Rishi out.
An ominous 9 p.m. bong, 1 hour to go.
That is the one thing that rings the most, what do you call it? Close to home, I guess you would say. as it relates to the current election in the United States, right? Where people, at least in 2020 especially, were voting out Trump. This election, that's been the narrative to some degree, but there's also been some other stuff going on. But it gives me like 2020 vibes. Like American 2020 vibes. Hold on. You can't watch this whole thing. It's like 30 minutes long. $10 p.m. voting cutoff. I don't know what time the vote ends.
We've accidentally blundered into the Adam Smith Institute, where some guys are refusing to speak to us. Please, as a little comment on how you're feeling about the upcoming change in the government. No? Nothing at all, not a bit of a...
I'm sorry, it's private. Sorry.
Okay. So you've come here to the Westminster Arms. We're hoping to talk to some Conservatives and see what's up with them on this, probably the worst election night, maybe ever. You got a sort of cool Britannia vibe going on. Is it 997 again for you?
We've got to fight for every vote.
You've got to fight for every vote?
Everyone needs to come out and vote.
In the next 2 minutes?
In the next 2 minutes, yeah.
Right, everyone's got to fight
before the polls close, every vote counts.
What is your offer for the British people, really? Like, what do you really...
You know, stability, competence, economic growth.
Keir Starmer is still campaigning to the very last minute. That certainly shows dedication. I'll give him that. Although he looks a lot shinier than usual. I can't really put my finger on what's happening with that. Maybe a little shorter? Hard to say.
Yes, let's hopefully. Okay, we'll go and find some. Thank you very much. Tories? 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 Sad Tories?
I'm a Tory.
You're a Tory, but he's running away. He's getting away. Come back. There he is. Don't follow him to the bathroom. Okay, now we got the Tories, the wine bar. And
he does kind of look like Matt Leck a little bit. I see what you're saying.
It's empty. Where are the Tories?
He's got a Leckian vibe.
I'm so sick of the Tories. I am so sick of them. I don't want to see them in this pub anymore. They're pissing me off.
I don't want to see them in the pub.
I don't want to see Nigel here anymore.
Uh-huh.
I want him to go away. I'm hoping he loses Clacton. Sick of him.
Unfortunately, that's
sick of him. Done. 14 years of crap.
Decisive.
Socialism doesn't work.
Okay.
I see a very, very high benefit bill
Oh, boy.
because Keir Starmer believes that no one is playing the system. He is not strong enough to deal with world leaders. We're going to have more terrorism. It's going to be an absolute nightmare.
More terrorism, more taxes.
Yeah, we're going to have open borders completely. He's going to give an amnesty to anyone that's over here is going to be able to stay here. More social housing will be built, obviously, but it will go first to the people that have come over by dinghies. And I just think, and I cannot believe someone like him. Also, let's not forget, he was a human rights lawyer. That's the last thing we need.
Oh my God. Wow. British Karen over here to the rescue to tell us all about open borders and what was it again? I kind of got lost in the stupid. But wow, that was just little bit unhinged. But hey, I am not her dad. You do whatever you want. You say whatever you want, but that doesn't make it true. Deport her. Maybe you can start a petition or like a referendum on that. I know the recent history of referendums hasn't been great, but I have faith. He goes to Islington North.
If we win, and fingers crossed we will, then it will reboot a left movement and it will give the left hope. And, you know, I think hopefully as well we might see some other Green candidates elected. You know, we don't know yet about some of the other left-wing independents, but obviously that's even more challenging. But, you know, with the remaining left-wing Labour MPs, like Zara Sultana, for example, there can be a cohort in Parliament of left-wing MPs, which who knows where that could lead to build the start of something new. But also, I think it's so important to send a message to Labour and that they can't take the left for granted. They can't take socialist voters, pro-Palestinian voters for granted and assume we have nowhere else to go, because we do. We know that Starmer's Labour Party is not offering solutions to the problems in this country. We know that people are going to be incredibly disillusioned, and it's a real concern.
The only place in London where people are cheering each individual result, I'm sure.
And it's a real concern in terms of disillusionment fueling support for the far right. So there is an absolute...
And I mean, that disillusionment is kind of fair, right? Like, I think some of the... much of what she's saying are, like, just completely fair points to be making right now. And, like, the fact is if you look at, for instance, the Green Party in this particular election, they got 7% of the vote, roughly, but will only take down less than 1% of the seats. You know, makes things feel kind of undemocratic.
Need for a left-wing resurgence to counter that, because we know centrist liberals will never offer the solutions. They fuel the problem. So we absolutely need to have that resurgence, and I think we'll see it because there'll be so much disillusionment under Starmer's government. We've seen already there is an enthusiasm for Starmer. I mean, all the polling shows that people who are voting Labour are voting to get the Tories out, not because they're enthusiastic about Starmer or Labour's policy offer. So the left needs to be there offering those solutions and building the alternative, and I think we're starting to see that. And Jeremy, if he's elected as an independent, that's just the start of that movement.
The cheering was, I've just found out, was that they showed Corbyn on TV.
We're easily enthused.
It's been
nothing
too
wrong
close
with
to
a little
call is the
enthusiasm.
official line on this. You seem a bit more
I wish I
autistic
had that
somehow.
sort of
Is that
ease
your
of
take on the
enthusiasm
situation?
for
We're still
everything.
about an hour out from the actual call.
I mean, look, I can only go on what I've seen online, what I've heard from people on the ground. Labour sources, who are Labour sources themselves, pessimistic about the result. And you know what? What I would say is that we have put in the work on Jeremy Corbyn's campaign. Hundreds of us, thousands of us even, every single day for the last 5 weeks. I know that politics isn't about deserving, but if a campaign and a candidate deserve to win, it's Jeremy Corbyn in Islington North and every single person who's contributed even an hour of their time, a day of their time, a week of their time, taken time off of work. That's democracy. People are standing up, people are fighting back against the rise of the far right and the right wing of the Labour Party and building a platform of hope. Jeremy Corbyn has represented that for a long time, and long may that continue. And I think...
And long may that continue. One of the most British things I think we've heard during this whole video. Long may that continue for Mr. Corbyn. Okay. Can't watch this whole thing, which is basically just Novara Media gloating about Corbyn winning as an independent. Which, I mean, it's fun, which is why we spent time on this as well today, because I am having a good time watching the Conservatives lose in England. Last story on the election in the UK. This is from 2 days ago, where protesters interrupted Nigel Farage's first speech as MP. Deserved.
Well, this is good preparation for the House of Commons, I suppose, isn't it? Very good preparation. It's going to be very lively in there, isn't it? Oh, do buck up, really, please, love. I'm so sorry. Well, I'm enjoying this. Bye, darling. Have a lovely day.
Good to see people protesting Mr. Farage here. Unfortunately, he did win his election and is now an MP in London. Oh boy. My stream software is acting crazy. Come on. Be my friend. My God. Alright, let's go to a different election, which I will admit I thought was going to go a completely different way, but the sands beneath this entire French election have completely shifted in the last week since the first round of voting happened. If you're probably aware, as we've been talking about it quite a bit, the right-wing National Rally Party in France had taken early lead last weekend in the first round of voting in the French snap election called by Emmanuel Macron, which had been called, including by me, misguided. Seems to have taken a serious turn. Let's start it off by just talking about this. Here's Reuters a day ago.
In the seaside town of Les Touquets in northern France, Sunday's snap parliamentary elections and the far-right National Rally, or RN, were top of mind for voters.
I saw the map of France and it scared me a little because the majority are with the RN. So obviously I don't feel very well. I think there are many of us who have this feeling, many who are afraid for France, for the future.
While some welcome the change embodied by the RN, others worried about what they called an anti-Semitic and racist party. Opinion polls forecast the far right could be the largest party, but fall short of an absolute majority. Ahead of the vote, parties across the political spectrum urged French voters to vote massively to tilt the outcome either way. Marine.
Absolutely, and we've been talking about that. We've been seeing the protests in the street, the rallies of people trying to push voters out. Oh, God. I have a terrible headache today. Ugh. All right. Oh, thank you for the Gesundheit. Appreciate it. Been feeling kind of under the weather all weekend, not gonna lie. No audio from clip? I don't think they were saying anything. I think it was just, it's like really quiet. Also, is my volume down? No, it's not down. They just weren't saying anything. It was just room noise from the voting station there. Let's go to this from France. Actually, no. I'm going to skip that one. Let's go to this from CNN. France's left-wing alliance is projected to be the largest bloc in parliament in surprise result. That's right. You're hearing it now for the first time, perhaps. At least I'm sure someone here is hearing this for the first time, but we had been talking about this previously, that there was some amount of consolidation happening in order to win seats for leftists in France, and it apparently worked. They've even beaten Emmanuel Macron's centrist party, which is called the oh shit, no, I can't think of it. My brain is fuzzy today. The Renaissance Party, that's right. Go web go.
We are hearing from the office of the French President Emmanuel Macron, who says he's studying the results of the legislative elections and will await the final structuring of the new National Assembly before taking any necessary decisions. We should have that tomorrow morning. His office says the President will ensure that the sovereign choice of the French people is respected. The results are nothing less than shocking, a complete turnaround, an apparent rebuke of the far right in favour of the far left. The New Popular Front, a left-wing coalition, is now projected to win more votes than any other bloc.
The New Popular Front gives me real Monty Python vibes. NCC raid. That's exciting. I don't see NCC raiding yet, but I'm sure. Sure, YouTube will tell me if that's happening. This is huge. This is a huge sort of shift, and the fact is the thing that's I think most and not fact because this is actually opinion. The thing that I find most interesting about this whole thing is that he called for a rejection of the right and got, in fact, a rejection of his own party. Because much of the left in France views his party as center-right, almost, right? Very neoliberal sort of government. And instead people went, no, we're going to go even further to the left.
In the second round of parliamentary elections, President Emmanuel Macron's centrist alliance projected to finish second, followed by the far-right National Rally Party. It's shocking because of what happened in the first round of elections last weekend, when it was a completely different picture. The far-right party got the most votes, followed by the left-wing bloc. Macron slumped to third. It's important to note Mr. Macron will remain president. He said he'll serve out the remainder of his term, which expires in 2027. Let's head to our team in the field. Melissa Bell is at the election event here in Paris with the far-right party. Let's first go to Jim Bitterman outside the office of the Prime Minister, Gabriel Attal, another young Prime Minister. We were expecting to have another one announced, weren't we? Because the leader of the right is only 28 years old. But it does seem as though Macron is slightly strengthened. The far left is very strengthened. So who is going to take the Prime Minister's office if this plays out as we expect?
That is a really good question, Max. The fact is that no one knows at this turning. We're assuming we're going to hear from the Prime Minister, current Prime Minister, Gabriel Attal, 34 years old, by the way.
Hold on. We don't need to hear this whole thing. I think there was one other spot that I did want to hear. Hold on. There's no way we needed a 12-minute breakdown from CNN.
Stanford University and a specialist on the far right as well. I just wanted to first of all ask you about the left, actually, because they are the story tonight, the way they managed to make a big comeback. Tell us about the left, because it's, you know, it's not as organised, let's say, as the right, but who are the people who are now in the you know, they don't have an absolute majority, but they're in #1 position now, aren't they, in the parliament, if these projections play out?
Yeah, so 4 parties mostly have united in this new left-green coalition, and the challenge for them is going to see whether they're going to continue to be united in the days to come. They go from the Socialist Party of former President François Hollande all the way to an anti-capitalist party, so it's a wide coalition, and they managed to form this coalition in just 4 days following the dissolution of the National Assembly by Emmanuel Macron. They're coming top, and it's a huge surprise for French people for many reasons. They had been dragging and lagging behind in all former elections. And also they had, you know, put forward this idea that in any three-way election, they would come out from the race if they're third. And so they were about to lose a lot of seats. And in the end, it's the opposite that happened. So it's a huge victory and also a surprise. But as you said, they're not the majority, as in 50% of the assembly.
Right. So, essentially, that's going to pressure, in my mind, Emmanuel Macron to get on board, as now his party is minority member to the what was it again, the Popular People's Front. Okay, let's end our discussion of the French election with this from France 24 English.
Well, what matters is mathematics right now. You have to reach that magic number, 289. So yes.
Mathematics.
Yes, but if you add the numbers, if you split the leftist alliance, that could happen. They could fight over the program, over Jean-Luc Mélenchon. All the other parties, the three, have said, we don't want Jean-Luc Mélenchon as our prime minister. They've said it, they've repeated it. And
They're
this is
not going to choose. Sorry.
Yeah, no, but they don't want Jean-Luc Mélenchon. So you could argue, Emmanuel Macron also has said we don't want LFI. So he could say, okay, let's sit down together. If you add the Macron camp, the socialists, the Greens, the communists, some unaffiliated MPs, you could even throw in the 60 or so MPs from what remains of the conservative camp.
Closer to the centre.
They're well, they're closer to the center than the far right, but that's not such
Those
a performance.
within them who are closer
yeah,
to the centre.
Yeah. So not, you could have a majority.
Let's not do that. Well, by we, I mean France. Hey, France, let's not do that. Coming from me, the guy on the space station. I love that graph, though. It's a great graph. The new Popular Front. That's what it is. So hot right now. It really is. Better hydrate. It's a galactic graph. All right, now let's go quickly to talk here about Iran, as the presidential election, the voting for that election has now ended its second runoff vote. The first round was only 40% of the legal age voting adults came to vote. In this one, it's over 50%. And the people have decided they want the reformist candidate, Masoud Pezeshkian. I think that's how you say it. Kind of.
In the early hours, across Iran, impromptu celebrations, as word spread of a victory few might have expected when campaigning began last month. Tonight, celebrations more official in tone as Masoud Pezeshkian made his first speech as Iran's new president. In this election, I didn't give you false promises, I did not lie, he told reporters. It's been many years after the revolution that we come to the podium, we make promises, and we fail to fulfill them. This is the biggest problem we have. For the former heart surgeon and health minister, this was, though, hardly a ringing mandate. The first round saw a historic low turnout of 40% after anti-regime activists called for a boycott of the political system. But the prospect of Pezeshkian's hardline opponent, Saeed Jalili, winning the presidency seemed to motivate a higher, near 50% turnout for round two.
In the past few days they didn't feel good, but as soon as people heard Pezeshkian had won, a small smile was on their face. Nobody swore or said bad words today.
I hope the prices stay still and that girls and people can easily walk in the street without being anxious about anyone picking on them. That things like this don't happen.
Iranian authorities enacted a violent crackdown on the woman life freedom protests that followed the death in police custody of Mahsa Amini, the young woman arrested in 2022 over her refusal to wear a head covering. Pezeshkian has been critical of Iran's morality police, arguing for a loosening of restrictions. He's also advocated better relations with Europe and America and talks about reviving the 2015 nuclear deal.
Yeah. Now, I think this is a net good for people in Iran, especially as it relates to civil rights and things like that. Women's rights to some degree, but the what do you call it? The caliphate? I forget the exact name for it, but the Islamic leader of Iran still is technically the head of state. And he, I believe, said after finding out that Mr. Pezeshkian was elected, told him to follow the hardline conservative policies of the previous president who had died in the plane crash from earlier this year. So, I think it'll all kind of be up to, well, it's hard to say in this situation. Ugh. Either way, I think it's better than the alternative. Let the people go back on the secular path before the United States intervened. I'm a fan of that. I'm a fan of the seculars. Okay, now let's talk about Israel. Oh God, I feel like this section's gonna be weirdly frustrating today. It's gonna take a very Twilight Zone-ish sort of turn, which you will see here shortly. First, though, let's just look at some stuff that we have somehow grown normal or grown accustomed to happening more and more in this region. Not that I'm okay with it, but it just feels like now I mean, it doesn't even just feel like, it is in fact one in entire box full of stories. This is from 16 hours ago, out of the Associated Press. More than a dozen killed in Israeli strike on school turned shelter in Gaza refugee camp. You knew Bert and Ernie were coded for you. Oh, it's funny. Alright, let's just look at this Al Jazeera English story from 15 hours ago, discussing this same bombing that happened. Gaza has endured 9 months of daily attacks. This time, Israel bombed a UN-run school in Nusra refugee camp, killing at least 16 Palestinians and injuring dozens others. Look, dismembered into pieces. Isn't it cool? Dismembered. Look. Oh my god. It's a, oh. Jesus Christ, kid. What happened to the school? We're just sitting there and we had an incoming rocket come down on us. It's enough. Dismembered to pieces. Did you see the moment that it happened? Yes, I saw all of it. Thousands of forcibly displaced Palestinians were sheltering there. The same day, Israel bombed a home in Az-Zawaida and Deir al-Bala and attacked several neighborhoods in Gaza City. More than 38,000 people have been killed in Gaza since Israel began its war. Okay. Okay. Well, that's real. Okay, now here's what we're gonna do next. I was not expecting this story to come out today in any way. I don't know. In fact, at this point, I didn't think this was ever gonna happen, to be perfectly honest. This is what we're about to watch is going to be 3 different stories from the American mainstream media inside of Gaza. In fact, they all went to Rafah together on something of a media trip.
Israel's war on Gaza has witnessed an onslaught on more than just people. Anything that grows food, manufactures goods, or creates jobs appears to be a target. There's also something else that's been strangling the Strip for decades.
The main factor impeding the recovery of the Palestinian economy is the Israeli occupation.
That's Ayed Abu Ramadan, the chairperson of Gaza's Chamber of Commerce. He says at least 85% of businesses have been destroyed. His own, a large farm in the north, employing more than 200.
Sorry, I forgot that I had this story in between these. This is just... we don't even need to watch this. This is basically just telling us all what we already probably knew. That since October the 8th, the business sector in Palestine, specifically Gaza, has been completely obliterated. Now let's go to the American media. For the first time that I can remember in the last 9 months of them being inside of Gaza. Here's ABC News to start it off.
A look inside Rafah, a city now in ruins as the Israel Defense Forces try to root out Hamas fighters. ABC's Matt.
This is decidedly the wrong music to play while announcing this, not gonna lie.
Is one of the first journalists given access, and he joins us now with more on that look inside. Matt, good morning.
Hey, good morning. With the Israeli military says that Rafah is the hub of Hamas's weapon smuggling operation, a place honeycombed with tunnels where nearly every house is booby-trapped. But what we saw was a place that was emptied of civilians and full of the wreckage and the sounds of war.
In the ruins of Rafah, the general had to wait for the gunfire to stop before speaking.
Small arms fire just on the other end.
So they just stand here. They don't attempt to get any sorts of shots of what's actually happening right across this dirt berm. No reason for that.
He's now going to check it out.
Minutes earlier, we loaded into those Humvees and rolled from Israel across the border into Gaza.
Right over there is the city of Rafah, the focus of Israel's fighting over the past 2 months and of U.S. condemnation.
That fence in the dust-choked road, or the so-called Philadelphia corridor, right on the Gaza-Egypt border. A little farther, and we find the Rafah border crossing into Egypt in ruins. Israel claims this was the main smuggling route of Hamas weapons into Gaza. Egypt denies this.
See this column of Israeli troops moving out right now. Pretty much every house you see has some level of destruction.
Israel has been fighting there for over 2 months. An estimated 1.3 million Palestinians forced to evacuate southern Gaza, and the IDF claims just a handful of Hamas units remain. But the fighting not nearly over.
You can hear small arms fire in the distance. Actually, not such the distance. Unclear where it's coming from or where it's going on, but obviously there's still some fighting here.
The Israeli
You guys aren't even trying to figure out where it's coming from. Not even kind of.
chief spokesman tried to explain the destruction.
Hamas has booby-trapped all those houses.
So they had to blow up the buildings, they said.
Every single
The scale
house.
of the destruction here in what used to be the street is absolutely breathtaking. Every single house is destroyed. All that you see is a little alleyway carved in the rubble. All that's left is twisted rebar, concrete, and household goods.
At that point, the military...
It's weird watching ABC actually in Gaza right now, which has been completely off limits to any sort of Western press. They've all been relegated to Israel, where it's impossible to cover this, but they are asking zero questions of the IDF, not even attempting to look at active combat happening meters away from them, just kind of somehow thrusting their head under the sand, while also trying to cover things from inside Gaza. It's pretty amazing, honestly, the amount of effort that it feels like that at least ABC here is putting into avoiding actually paying attention to, I don't know, actual Palestinians.
To move us out.
They're asking us to get into the vehicles right now.
To a spot overlooking the sea, now marred by the wreckage of Rafah. Israel's prime minister has vowed a total victory, but the IDF has taken a more sober view.
It seems that Hamas is preparing to fight a very long insurgency. They're digging in, they're recruiting more people.
Hamas will remain with the ambition to be a terror organization. Our mission is to prevent from Hamas to do another 7th of October. Will you and me be talking 5 years from now about Hamas as a terror organization in Gaza? The answer is yes.
5 years from now? That is unacceptable. My God. That's what he's saying, is that we should continue, or by we, I mean he's talking about the IDF, should continue what it's doing for 5 years? No, that's fucking insane. Okay, let's see how CNN did. This is their trip through Rafah.
CNN, by the way, has been given rare access to war-torn Rafah.
That's a city in southern Gaza that has been ravaged by months of relentless Israeli military operations. And in this new report, CNN's Jeremy Diamond embeds with Israeli military to bring you a closer look from the front lines of the war. It's important to note, CNN reported from Gaza under Israeli Defense Forces escort at all times. CNN retained editorial control over the final report and did not submit any footage to the IDF for review.
For the first
Thick clouds of sand shroud the road to Rafah. But as the dust settles, the destruction is unmistakable. Flattened homes and bombed-out buildings, Gaza's last refuge devastated by the Israeli military assault on this city.
We are now entering the third month of Israeli military operations in Rafah, and you can see all around me the kind of destruction that these last 2+ months of military operations have wrought inside of the city of Rafah. All around destruction, very simple.
3 months? It's been longer than that. Especially if you start at the beginning of the conflict, because technically they've been under military siege the whole time, but yeah, they started bombing Rafah before they ever actually entered Rafah on foot, on the ground, if you will.
To the kind that I've seen in central Gaza, as well as in the northern part of the Strip.
This is the first time CNN has gotten access to this devastated city. Israel and Egypt have barred journalists from Gaza, except under tightly controlled military embeds like this.
We're working in this area very, very precise, very, very accurate. Unfortunately, the destruction is one to blame, Hamas.
The Israeli military says it has killed over 900 Hamas fighters here and believes it is close to defeating the group's Rafah brigade. But the fighting is clearly not over yet. Nor is the effort to uncover Hamas's.
It's ridiculous. The fact is multiple times they've claimed to have ridden Hamas from a place, and then suddenly later on, Hamas is back. So which claim are you supposed to believe? And what is the end of this? Now, what I found funny about this is the only picture of a tunnel that CNN got to take, and it's just the top of it, and it looks a hell of a lot like a well to me. I could be wrong, but they don't even show you, an image anywhere. It's
vast network of tunnels in Rafah.
This tunnel goes down over 28 meters underneath the ground.
As well as
So it's like a nearly 100-foot deep tunnel, and we can't get a video of that? What's up?
On Gaza's border with Egypt.
Right behind me here is the Egypt-Gaza border. We are now driving along what is known as the Philadelphia Corridor, a strategic corridor that the Israeli military seized 2 months ago. They say they did so because they believe Hamas was smuggling weapons across from Egypt and then from this area deeper into Gaza.
Israeli forces say they have uncovered dozens of tunnel shafts here, but cannot definitively say if any of the tunnels stretching into Egypt were operational.
We found dozens like the tunnels that you saw, and we are researching those tunnels carefully, making sure which...
By the way, CNN didn't get to see these tunnels, where they are, or anything like that. This is an IDF handout, according to this little fancy, important label up here in the right-hand corner.
Ones were functional, which ones are not functional anymore because maybe they were, from the Egyptian side, stopped.
So will this be the last ground operation then, Rafah?
I won't say that because what you will see is when we'll have intelligence that maybe there are hostages one of the points in Gaza, we will operate.
Before leaving Gaza, our convoy drives by what's left of the Gazan side of the Rafah border crossing.
Even though the vast majority of Israeli operations militarily have done absolutely nothing to free hostages, they're determined to continue.
Once a lifeline for millions of Palestinians, it now lies in ruins. The Israeli military says it is now facilitating a safe corridor for these trucks to deliver aid to Gaza via Israel's Kerem Shalom crossing. But humanitarian aid groups say the roads are still not safe. And simply not enough aid is getting in as the war rages on.
And during the nearly 3 hours that we spent on the ground in Rafah, we didn't see a single Palestinian. This city that was once a safe haven for displaced Palestinians from across the Gaza Strip has been almost completely emptied out. More than 1 million Palestinians have been forced to flee that city, many of them.
Yeah, dude, it's an ethnic cleansing. That's what happened. That's what's happening. It's interesting to see CNN, like, actually in Gaza, still trying to somehow find ways to, like, spin it, but realizing while doing that they can't just ignore, I don't know, reality.
I don't want reality.
It's a weird sort of limbo that they're in. Werner Herzog. It is an insane penguin who wants to get away from the water. Instead, he travels to the mountain. All right. Let's go to this one. This is our second to last video here. I'm just gonna skip this Associated Press. We were gonna watch all three, but I'm tired of watching the media just kind of shit the bed on this whole opportunity, as they so aptly put it. CBS News from a day ago. Hamas reportedly accepts U.S. proposal to begin Israeli hostage release talks.
In Gaza today, health officials are reporting multiple deaths in Israeli airstrikes on a central regional community. The local Palestinian news agency says at least 13 people, mainly women and children, were killed when Israeli warplanes hit a school being used as a temporary shelter. A family of 9, as well as 3 journalists, also died in other incidents. But there is new hope for an end to the bloodshed. Talks on a ceasefire and hostage release deal are set to take place next week. Journalist Iris Mackler is following the latest developments, and she joins us now from Jerusalem. Iris, after weeks of deadlock, Hamas is reportedly dropping a key demand. What can you tell us?
I can tell you that over the past 72 hours, Hamas has been letting it be known that they have agreed to the US-backed plan, now also the UN-backed plan, for a phased ceasefire deal, an exchange of Israeli hostages for Palestinian prisoners, and most importantly, a 6-week ceasefire while the first phase is done. So one of the things that they said reflects their own flexibility was that they had previously demanded that Israel commit up front to a long-term ceasefire before the ceasefire commences. They've dropped that. Now, you could say it's only semantics, but it's semantics that moves this along. And I think what we're hearing from them and what we're seeing for the first time...
I love how CBC has all these stock footage, photos of Hamas, and yet, meanwhile, while Israel is having firefights with Hamas, supposedly, but literally directly behind CNN and ABC, nobody decides to turn a camera to see if those people, I don't know, are Hamas or just civilians running for their lives. It's just, oh, God.
Is that there's a deal on the table and the possibility for discussion.
What about Israel, Iris? Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is under immense pressure domestically and from the international community to strike a deal, yet he's always insisted Hamas must be eliminated. Is he likely to compromise now?
There's lots of pressure on Benjamin Netanyahu.
All right, no, we're done with this. But the fact is that, yes, the important fact is that Hamas has, in fact, agreed to the ceasefire deal as it stands. They have unamended, essentially, their offer, which was originally requiring a full ceasefire, a full permanent ceasefire for it to go forward. They are now saying that they are willing to change that and to accept the 6-week ceasefire as it was originally propositioned in the American / supposedly Israeli deal. Let's just go to our last video here. Great job, everybody, for making it this far. Can't bomb an idea. Certainly doesn't keep people from trying for some reason. That is factually accurate. Let's go to Al Jazeera, English from 9 hours ago. UN Special Rapporteur. Palestinians in Gaza have been trapped in a hell without comparison since October 8th.
I want to take you back to our main story, ongoing Israeli bombardment of Gaza. We're joined now by Francesca Albanese. She's the UN Special Rapporteur on the occupied Palestinian territory. She's joining us now from Catania in Italy. Thank you very much indeed for being with us. There are talks in the background about ceasefires. There is, of course, the conflict in northern Israel with Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, and yet the people of Gaza are still facing a crisis.
Yes, of course. Of course, people in Gaza are facing a crisis. People in Gaza have been facing a crisis since ever, and worse than ever, since October 8th. The people in Gaza are trapped in a hell without comparison, and there is no way they can be safe in Gaza. It's shocking to me that there is even a resolution of a UN Security Council ordering a ceasefire and still is not in place. There is no other way to stop this carnage in Gaza other than enforcing a ceasefire. And given the fact that Israel doesn't seem willing to comply, it is to be forced to do so.
It sounds to me like she's saying the UN peacekeepers need to go into Israel. Maybe I'm hearing it differently than people in chat. That's what I'm hearing.
There are no other ways.
We went from very recently to seeing global protests on the streets of cities around the world in support of the Palestinian cause and, of course, in support of Israel as well. Those seem to have quietened down. The politics seems to have quietened down. We have, as I say, the ceasefire negotiations possibly on one side. Israel has its conflict with Hezbollah to the north. Is it true, is it fair to say that everybody seems to be basically just waiting for the next thing to happen, and in the meantime the people of Gaza are simply going through what you've described day after day after day?
Well, in a way, I agree with you that things seems to have sort of become quieter. But this is not quiet because the protests have been repressed in the street pretty much everywhere, including in the West. Student protests have been cracked down, often violently. The encampments have been abruptly forced to shut down. So I don't think that people are really quiet. People are in distress because they are horrified about what's happening in Gaza, and they are horrified to see that politicians do not respond. At the same time, yes, the politics do not align with the street. Then, of course, the risk of normalizing this new law is there. This is where we are. And again, it's equally shocking.
We're talking about the ceasefire negotiations that are sort of being held very quietly, shall we say, in the background. There's not a lot of news coming out of that at the moment. Do you think that there's a risk that we're going to see an increase in the number of attacks that the Israeli military is carrying out as we move towards a situation where there might be a ceasefire, whereas, of course, the Israeli government is anxious to have some sort of concrete resolution, as it would see it, to its conflict in Gaza?
I do see that the level of violence and tension is escalating. It has escalated over the past months, and I do not see any tangible signal that this is going to stop. Maybe the discussions for a ceasefire are ongoing. I don't know anything about that, so I cannot comment. What I see though is that people continue to die out of starvation. There is famine in Gaza. There are, again, and this is something that I've said it over and over, the hospitals do not have capacity to treat Gaza patients. There is nothing decent and dignified left to the people in Gaza.
Well, that's UN Special Rapporteur for Palestine, Francesca Albanese. Directly from her, so... It would be very interesting to see UN peacekeepers show up. It's very interesting. I mean, she didn't say it directly, but she said about it as close to as you can without saying it directly, I feel like, and still managed to get that idea. Oh my god, has barely veiled at all. The fact is, she's not wrong. We would have called for it in so many other places already. Just nobody has the balls to say it that has the voice. Alright. Well, made it through another long and arduous stream. Thankfully, we had each other to get through it. That's it for me. Until I see you next, you stay classy, Galactic Stream Nation. Can't forget this. These are your galactic patrons. Gabby, Goth Dogs, Aaron W, Mitty, Afroponics, PB, Robot Cat, Morbius Dragon, The Anti-Corporatist, Moanoa, Nadia, Mrs. Jen, Omegastar, Pitchforks Dragon, Vincent Morales, and Donald James X. Thanks to all these people here, the GNN continues. You can help make sure that this show exists by going to this link in chat.
Oh my gosh.
Now, before we move on even a fraction beyond this point, we must talk about a different group of people. Or at least a Venn diagram of the... You'll see what I mean. And these are the people that we need to talk about. These are the Galactic benefactors. All these people that you're seeing in front of you right now decided just producing the show wasn't enough. They had to be a benefactor. They had to go above and beyond on the old Patreon, get all of the possible space benefits while also maxing out their contributions to the Galactic News Network. That's right. People like, oh, there's my face. My god. I lost my face. People like PB, who, I think PB is here in chat right now, who's always a lovely contribution to our digital conversations. People like Nadia Yvette Chambers, who is often hanging out in this chat, although has been playing it more inconspicuous lately than usual. Moa Noip, who we just passed by, who's one of our Galactic mods, who's also in chat today. Can't forget Omega Star, just passed by them. Might have to make these longer. I can't talk fast enough to keep up with my thing here. Omega Star, also here oftentimes. Although they've been hanging out in the Twitch chat more than not lately. Anyways, if you see any of these people in the YouTube or Twitch chat, tell them you appreciate them.